the fear, the blame, the trauma, the dysfunction of just wanting to not be here and do this anymore.
How do we become part of the solution and not the problem? Because I really feel with something as delicate like this, it can easily transition to that without even having the intent of it becoming that.
There's something about that allows for this kind of power. So if you take a predator out of the salsa scene and he goes bowling, I don't think he's going to have as much power over people who bowl. And people even threatened our safety, and threatened our livelihoods.
Hi guys, welcome back. The scene of ours. Today's probably going to be one of the more special, more important episodes that we're going to do. We're going to have some fun today, but we're going to actually talk about some serious topics. So we're going to have like a trigger warning at the beginning. We don't want to upset. We're going to touch on some real touchy, difficult things to discuss, but the more difficult they are, I think it's important that we actually have that conversation. So I wanted to say that off jump. I wanted to make sure to start with that. That being said, at your pace, if this doesn't work or if there's something that we're hitting on and you need to turn this off, by all means, we totally understand. We'd like everybody to tune in and we'd like as much feedback as possible because we think these are important topics to talk about today within our scene. And what better to do it with the people that we have as our guests today because they're the ones that have been putting this at the forefront. One of the things that I talked about last year in my New York Congress when I introduced one of our wonderful guests today was specifically that. I mean, there's so much more that I could have said about her talent and this, that, and another thing, but I think more importantly is the effort and the proactiveness that she's taken on this stance. So we wanted to make sure to add that at the beginning. Thank you very much for tuning in. And here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. The scene of ours. Jeff, how are you?
Good.
Jeff is always good. Never says anything else than that. Edwin, welcome back, bro.
I'm glad to be back.
How are you?
It's been a while.
Happy birthday,
I'm good.
Edwin.
Happy birthday, Edwin.
Happy birthday, Edwin.
Yeah, it was Edwin's birthday, guys. People thought we fired you, and we did not.
No, I'm glad.
What? No. Where were you? You were like on the other side of the planet, right?
Well, I don't know about that, but I was in Cuba.
Lucky you.
That's the other
Could you imagine me as an American saying, "Were you in Cuba?" and me going, "Lucky you." That's how fucked up things are right now in this place. Go figure.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was great.
Did you have a good time?
I had an amazing time.
You did dance a lot?
A lot.
Good, man. I'm glad to
day.
hear. Every day?
Yes.
I think you dance every day regardless.
Yeah.
Fact.
I do. You're right, but I mean, not at this pace.
It was more dancing?
It's a lot more. Yeah, a little more.
All right.
dancing.
Well, we're glad to have you back. We're glad you're here in one piece. Happy birthday.
Thank you, man.
How old are you? 22?
Yeah.
22 years old, man.
Plus,
Plus. Perfect.
Vamos a dejarlo ahí.
Vamos a dejarlo ahí entonces. Okay, guys, we have some wonderful guests. First and foremost, think it goes without saying how talented these ladies are, right? I think the first thing we think about with you both is how talented you guys both are.
That's the first thing?
Talent?
That's nice.
You don't think so? I think that's a good place to start.
Okay.
I want people to think about my talent.
I don't think you're talented, Jeff. No, I'm joking, Jeff. Jeff gets very, very, very offended about this. So, Jeff, you're talented too. But I think the first thing I think about is how talented you guys are. I think about the amount of experience that you guys both bring to the table. I think about the success that you guys both have had. I'm actually really excited to talk to you about that because Daniel was mentioned in our last podcast about like recording everything and like chronicalizing all of the stuff that we weren't supposed to, and we're gonna touch on that success. I think now, I think we've transitioned to something else in terms of like the activism. Is that safe to say?
Yeah.
So without further ado, our guest today is Isabel.
Hello.
And the lovely Ahtoy.
Uh-oh.
Oh, here we go.
And I did it on purpose. Actually, I told Jeff this was going to happen. Hold on, wait. So we're going to start with controversy off the top. I swear to God, I told Jeff I was going to do this, and I knew it was going to piss you off. So the controversy. People have been saying your name wrong for a long time.
No, not people. You two.
No. You see?
And Edwin
see?
for some time, and that had
I'm
to
good
change
right
fast. Yeah. Rehabilitated.
So we're the only ones.
Nobody
Just
else.
the two.
Just us?
Just
It's impossible.
No, it can't
There's
be
no
just
way.
us.
No one
It
else.
can't be just us.
No, it
Absolutely
can't
no one
be.
else.
Seriously? It's just
Come
us?
on.
Do we have to take a poll?
Well, I want to know.
Do you remember when we talked about this recently?
Yeah, that's why we brought
That's
it
why
up.
we brought it up. That's why we're like, we're gonna start.
So
here.
it was this,
Yes.
these people, right, except for Isabel and
Yes.
one other person, which was Julie.
Okay.
And so we discussed this, and then I think
it
you
was in
turned to her and you
Canada.
were like, "How do you say her name?" And she was like, "Ahtoy, hello."
Yeah, that's
So she's
definitely
known since she was really young.
But Julie,
And somehow that's
to give her
Why
good.
didn't
credit, she
anybody
is a lot
tell me?
smarter than the three of us.
Nobody
In all
told
fairness.
me how to say your name.
Not even me.
No, because look, Edmund corrected me recently.
Did he?
Yeah.
I did.
Okay, so
And-
why don't we do this for the world? I know there's got to be more than three of us. There can't be just us three. There's no way. It's mathematically impossible.
Two. I got it.
You got it now, but I'm saying.
Oh, I got it.
So what is the proper way to pronounce your whole name?
I'm gonna-
Because I've heard it at events, and then I always wonder, like when they say your name at Summit, I'm always like, did they
And
say
then
that
people
right?
get
Okay.
lazy and they're like, Juliana. I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
well-
not her name. Is not Juliana. That's not how I met you.
Yeah, it wasn't.
The reason why you're hearing it a certain way at the summit is because who's saying it?
It depends on. It's only two
It's
hosts.
only one person
Jason.
who messes it up every single time
So-
that I feel like it's on purpose. And
Wait
I'm
a minute.
looking
Wait a
at the
minute.
camera.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
So then it's not just us three.
so
Okay.
that's four. It's four. of
God,
us.
I feel so much better.
Four.
Why you keep including me? I got
Because,
it.
bro, you're one of us. You're part of the gang.
I mean, you've been partners for
That's what
6
clearly-
years.
that's-
I hope you have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have it.
Okay,
So-
so I'm going to quote Julie again.
Yes.
And she said, "It's exactly how it's spelled.
Okay.
Ah,
Ah,
toy."
Ahtoy.
I'm never ever gonna
I
get
thought it was
Ahtoy.
Ahtoy, man.
this. No,
for
it's not.
years.
It's Ahtoy.
Ahtoy.
Get it together. I'm so embarrassed. But that's okay. I apologize.
You're still
Ahtoy.
messing it up.
From the
I
bottom.
accept.
Thank you.
Ahtoy.
Really, I don't
Ahtoy.
mind actually.
Like
an
No,
ah.
no.
Yeah.
But that's not
Yeah.
cool. I wouldn't want people to call me Abel. That would be weird, no?
Jeff, it's like
I-
it's like the Dominican.
Ahtoy.
Right? Would be like sí.
Word.
Sí, no.
no,
Sí,
sí,
ah,
sí, sí.
sí.
Ah, sí.
Okay,
Sí.
so we ask
Ah,
everyone
yeah.
the same question. We ask whenever we have guests on the show, we always kind of start at the beginning, at the genesis. So we're gonna go one at a time, and we'll start with you, Ahtoy. How did you start? Like, how did your dance journey start? What did you do something prior to salsa, or was this like your first introduction to dance?
I started with swimming.
Like
which
synchronized
I thought
swimming?
What competitive swimming, which I thought was a dance, and I didn't realize you were supposed to win. You were supposed to swim fast. And I was very preoccupied with the technique, which I thought was like dancing.
Yeah.
And I was very enamored with the movement underwater.
Cool.
And my dad was like, "You have to try to get to the end."
Okay.
And I was like, "But watch my technique."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like a fish?
Yes, I love to swim. Still, up to now. And then I did American Sign Language, and I felt like that was dancing too. I grew up in a little island of Guam. I didn't have a lot of access to stuff.
Okay.
And so these little things introduced me to the beauty of movement. And then I begged my parents to let me take ballet. And there was one little ballet school on Guam. So I started with ballet. I've been dancing for 34 years now.
Okay.
And ballet, contemporary, jazz, tap, the usual
This all happened in
Stuff.
Guam, or this happened when
In
you got
Guam.
stateside?
in Guam.
So you came here with all that training
I
already.
yes.
So how'd you get into like the salsa part of it?
Salsa. So I had come to the United States when I was 12. I was on my own a lot, like coming every year to study with the Houston Ballet and with San Francisco Ballet. And so I already was on a journey to be dancing in the United States. And then when I moved here at age 17, I think it's kind of like getting associated with a social group.
Got it.
I was in college. I thought I understood my identity. My identity is still confusing up to now. I'm indigenous Chamorro, but my mom's family also came to Guam from Cuba and Puerto Rico. And so when I came here, I tried to associate with other Asian groups and realized very quickly that I'm not considered Asian. I tried to associate with other Pacific Islander groups, and that was weird as well because there's a hierarchy within Pacific Islanders. And then I got adopted by the Dominicans and Puerto Ricans.
Because you were like, oye, coja pa acá. Ajá. Ven acá.
Yeah.
Did you know this about
no,
her?
tú sabes,
Me?
they were like,
I have recently just learned.
Okay,
Not
good.
the swimming and the sign language part, but
You learned about the other stuff.
the ballet.
Okay, so we adopt you. We take you in. Que lo
Yeah.
que. And then, like, you remember your first class?
I didn't take a class. It was all parties.
So you just went to a social
Yeah.
and started dancing.
And
What
started
was your first
dancing.
social
That's how I
at?
started.
It was at Columbia. It was a college social. It was put on by HEOP. You know HEOP?
I
The
know.
Higher Education Opportunity Program.
No.
So those kids, they used to, I think it was New York, they used to have a program to send kids who are first generation college students to a private school, not to a public one. And they were all Dominican and Puerto Rican. And so they used to organize and they used to
give you
help
a
each
grant.
other out. Yes.
I got a grant for Dominican.
Yep.
Jeff,
First
you
generation.
used to
So
do-
you went to
Right.
a party at
Huh?
Columbia?
At Columbia
No.
University.
And that was your first exposure, like, to salsa?
Yes.
Holy moly guacamole.
Yeah.
I performed at an event that they did with Melanie.
Yeah.
Columbia?
One couple.
I'm confused.
Yeah. At
It
Columbia.
was funny. I was watching. They did Encanto at the Hollywood Bowl. It's on
Yeah.
Disney Plus, and Melanie was dancing there.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Cool, very cool. Okay, that's a hell of a, like, I'll be honest, I knew none of that, which is pretty cool.
Well, it's not totally accurate because in Guam we're a former Spanish colony, so we
Yeah.
do partner dancing too. And so I grew up. My mom taught me cha-cha-cha and swing, things like that. She was my first
Instructor.
exposure to that. Yeah.
Okay,
And
cool.
she's the dancer in our family too.
Ah, so that's where you get it from.
Yeah. But I was 17 here, so I wasn't legal just yet. And I think back then, no, I don't remember if you had to be 21 to get into the clubs. But my friends would sneak me into places like LQ, and I used to.
Definitely
Just
21.
dance.
for
On
Qs.
LQ's one on, what was that, on third?
No, it was on Lex.
Lex, yeah. That
It
one?
was on Lex.
53rd, it was like
96,
50
and,
in the
and,
50s, 53rd.
We always try to give
That
reference.
was
Like
48 in Lex.
1997.
1997?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was like
Cool.
a different address at that point.
Oh yeah, it was on
53rd.
96. In 97, it was on
Yeah,
96.
96, and then it went down to, like, by Baruch.
And then it went back to 48th Street.
Okay, that's awesome. We're off to a running start. Isabel, how about you? How did, like, what was your, like, how long have you been doing this? What's your first exposure to dancing?
I started when I was 19. I had been an athlete up until then.
What'd you play?
Lacrosse.
That definitely doesn't track.
No? Okay.
I would have never guessed that. Lacrosse.
Yeah, I decided I wanted to switch things up when I went to college. And I tried to try out for the dance team at Duke University. They didn't let me on.
You went to Duke?
Yeah, I went to Duke.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Man, it's a rough weekend to be a Duke
I
alumni.
know. They just lost.
Rough game.
And then I started by going social dancing
So,
every night.
did you do any, like, formal training, like anything like ballet or anything when you were
No.
younger? Like, literally, you just started.
Wait, but you
Just
grew up
salsa.
in North Carolina?
Yep, born and raised.
Where in North Carolina?
Chapel Hill. I'm
Oh,
a traitor.
man, you are. So, like, what was your exposure to salsa, I guess?
Well, I grew up listening to a lot of Latin music because my aunt from Spain would just put a whole bunch of music on, any kind of Spanish music, and so I always loved the music. But in high school, I was just caught up with sports, and so when I went to college, I wanted to try something new.
And they had, like, a dance. They had, like,
They had a dance team,
Okay.
but it was a Rueda Casino team.
Oh, okay.
And then, I didn't get on the team, and I was like, well, I still want to learn how to do this. So I
Look at
just
that.
looked up parties.
Look at that.
Just
You
started
guys-
going to parties.
Interestingly enough, the
Yeah.
education brought you guys to
Mhm.
our scene, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd
That's
you major in?
I did international comparative studies and global health with a
Sounds
focus in Latin
complicated.
America. Yeah.
And Ahtoy,
Sounds
what
very
was your
complicated.
major?
Biology.
Biology.
I feel like it's not. I feel like it's way more than that.
Yeah.
Because you tried to explain it to me once, and I was like, "What?"
I mean, the whole thing is more than that.
Yeah, what
but
is it?
So
though?
what-
My
yeah,
undergrad.
don't give us the
My
Cliff Notes.
undergrad was bio,
Okay.
and then my first master's was in public health. My second master's is in epidemiology, and my PhD is in epidemiology and biostatistics.
Are you doctor?
I am. I mean, you can call me doctor.
Why don't we? Why haven't
The
we changed
answer-
that?
Yeah, why
is
don't
yes.
you? Right
We
now,
should
it
do
can
that.
be Dr. Ahtoy.
But
Why
say
don't
it
we do
right.
that? Why are you not being called doctor? Like, I'll be
I
honest,
wanna
if
be
I had a
called
doctorate,
doctor.
I'd have like a license plate where it says doctor.
And
on
that
it,
is the difference between you and Ahtoy.
I guess. But I mean, I think she likes it. Clearly, she's asking me to call her
No,
doctor.
I'd want to be called doctor.
Well, yeah.
Like in Congresses, would be like Jeff Tavares. I'll be like, it's Doctor.
Yeah, I have a hard time telling people that, but I think it is important for an Indigenous woman
Okay.
to be recognized for her accomplishments.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
my
So we
mom
should call
is
you
also Dr. Wampat.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's something that she fought for, so I probably should too.
We should, from
I
now
think-
on,
I
all
think
right, I'll
that's
tell
a
you what.
fantastic
When you come to
accomplishment.
Tri-State New York this year, we're going to introduce you not as Edwin and Ahtoy. It's going to be Edwin and Dr. Ahtoy. What do you think about that?
That would be fun.
We're
My
going to be
mom
the
would
first.
be very proud.
We should. Why not?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
I think we're
I'm
gonna have
afraid
to-
say your name.
What'd you say?
I'm afraid to say her name.
Ah,
That's all I'm
Why? She
thinking
told us
about.
how to say it.
I know, but I'm like still.
Got practice.
Yeah.
Just call
Like
her
1, 2,
Doc.
3, 5, 6, 7. Just
I'm,
Hey,
not
Doc.
I'm not a fast learner anymore.
Yeah.
So
years
Just
ago, somebody bought me, people are buying us flights for festivals and stuff like that. Somebody bought me a flight to Sydney, and I got my ticket, and it said doctor on it because the airlines are the ones that are always asking you for your titles.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so touched that this person, like,
Do you know
put
why they
me-
do that?
Who, what? No, I don't actually.
Because they want to know who's on the plane in the event of an emergency.
Oh, boy.
is that true?
Definitely
Yeah, 'cause
not.
they
It
asked us
shouldn't be
if-
me
Not that
For
intervening.
law
kind of
enforcement
doctor.
people.
Not
they
that
ask us
kind of
the same
doctor.
thing.
Yeah.
And they'll say like, "Oh, if something happens, like," and I'm like, "I'm on vacation." Please no.
In case of an emergency.
Yeah, right. It's almost like I know you're here, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. All right. Damn, I just learned so much. What position were you as a lacrosse player? I just want to make sure.
Midfield,
All right.
either center or D wing.
He has no idea what that
Yeah,
means.
you don't know the positions. You
Why
don't
are
know
you
the
asking
lacrosse
questions
positions. Why
that you have
asking?
no idea what that means?
But
Because-
that sounds like a big deal.
That sounds like the
No.
the person in the middle that can
Yeah,
move all over the
midfield,
field.
Just do a little bit of everything.
I feel like it's like
Offense,
soccer
defense.
where they kind of have like
It's
no
very
barrier.
similar. It's very similar to
See,
soccer.
Jeff, I know
The
something
position.
about something. Okay,
Whatever.
cool. So, you start dancing in school. How do we transition to becoming something more serious? We're gonna ask you this question too.
It happened pretty quickly. I started going out dancing every night with my best friend in college at the time, and
Who's that? Let's give him a shout out.
Aaron Ledger.
Okay.
Yeah, and we just went out dancing all the time, and we quickly found the on two scene, and we were like, oh, this looks different. I want to learn how to do that.
Is
And
there a
so
big on two scene in North Carolina?
It's gotten much bigger over the years. Yeah,
Okay.
I would say there's a pretty big scene,
Okay, cool.
relatively speaking. I haven't been there in a while, so I can't.
You
Speak.
don't know,
I can't
but-
speak for it anymore, but
Okay.
it's
And-
only grown.
I think I met you in an event in Italy,
Probably
in Milan,
Mhm.
at the Tropicana.
the Tropicana. Yeah,
You see?
Just got a good memory.
yeah.
You might have been there too.
I probably was.
I think you were.
I
Yeah.
think you were there.
Yeah.
She had really long hair back then.
No, in the beginning.
Do
in
you
the
remember-
beginning, her hair? I was like, how did she dance with her hair like that?
So, just for context, Ahtoy's hair came down to where?
I don't know.
Oh, like your
Somewhere.
calf?
Yeah, in Guam it was traditional. It is traditional to never cut your hair because it represents how women hold a kind of community strength.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of like ancient legends around women cutting their hair and weaving it into like a giant fishnet for the good of the entire community.
Oh wow. Not even like a shape up, like nothing.
So
Like,
yeah,
not
I
even like
had
a-
not
like
cut
an
my
edge,
hair before
nothing.
I came here.
So when did you cut your hair? Because
I cut my hair when I first joined Santo Rico.
Did you really?
Yeah, and remember I forgot his name. Jay Kwan.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Who's she talking about?
He was there before we.
Yeah, it
were
was
there.
a-
He
But
was
he
in
always used to come
Exhibition,
around for
and
social.
he worked at that, one of those salons on Astor Place that has the swirly poles outside of it that
Mhm.
signify that it's a barber.
Yeah.
And he gave me my first haircut because I didn't trust anybody. I had never been in a barber's shop.
How much did you cut? Like all of it?
Like half of it, which was a lot.
Yeah.
I donated it.
wow.
Remember, I used to wrap it around my neck.
Yeah,
order
and I
to spin.
remember for some reason I remember like you doing a show and putting your hair under your straps.
Yeah, and then I
Right?
used
Am I
to
right
tie
about
it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
It was really long.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we used to go to the studio, she would be doing homework at the front desk. She'd have all her books laid out.
It's true.
Always, forever doing homework.
She would always
She was doing homework.
she would be doing homework at the front desk, and I remember like she would be like in like just like workout gear, and like I remember her hair, it wouldn't be like tied up. I guess she would tie it up like when the rehearsal was about to start. But I remember us going, wow.
I'm gonna say something funny. So, me and Edwin probably paid for Thomas's car payments because we were always late. Right? So watch this. So this is how this would
Late
work. Right?
fees.
I would be like, "Yo, Edwin, I'm on my way to get you. Come outside." And I'd get to the front of his house, and he'd just take forever. It'd take forever. And then he'd come out, and he'd be like, "Forgot something," and go back up, right? And I'd be rushing to the studio, and we would get there at like 8:46. Rehearsals at 9. We had to be there by 8:45. We'd get there by 8:46. And she would be there doing homework, and she would just look at us like, every time. And she would shake her head. And that's $5. And I'm like, damn it, Edwin, a minute. We're here a minute late.
Oh, blame me.
It was your fault. It was
Okay.
always your fault.
This is what they do, guys. They fight.
It's true. No, it was always your fault.
That's why
What
they're
you
on
gonna
separate
do?
sides of the room.
And she used to look at
You know,
us.
there
and
were
be like,
so
at
many
the time,
times.
You would be like,
There was so many times that I'd be ready. And Jeff does, we have our Dominican.
We're late.
You know how Dominicans are.
We're late.
So I'm going to say, yo, I'm going to be there in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's
Yo, come downstairs. You know Jeff.
today.
Come
Jeff
downstairs.
called me.
And you come downstairs and you're looking and Jeff, it's 15 minutes, Jeff hasn't. But he told me to come downstairs.
Well,
But
today
I'm the one. Like,
Jeff called me. He's like, "Where are you?" I was like, "Oh, I'm on exit 5." He's like, "Well, I'm right behind you. I was
Exactly.
just getting out the shower." Legit. I picked the phone. I was getting out the shower. Sorry, Jeff.
So it wasn't just me. There was times, he's right. There was times that I would go and be like, damn, I forgot my keys.
90%
I
of
gotta
the
go
times
back
I
up.
was late because of you.
Not 90.
All right, we digress.
All right, well, let's go.
So, Santo Rico, how'd you find it? How was?
I used to work at Presbyterian.
Okay,
So I'm pre East Harlem.
you were on the
I'm
151.
Washington
158?
Heights, Santo Rico. I am pre Yamule. I just told everyone this a few days ago.
Wait, you were on 158?
Yeah,
Yeah.
158 in Broadway.
Okay. So where's Presbyterian? It's not far from there, right? Something like
Yeah,
that.
168.
168. Yeah.
Okay, so you were walking home one day, or like how'd you come across
I
that?
was dancing ballroom, unfortunately.
Why you say that? I don't think I've
We
ever
can
heard
get into
anyone.
that,
That
in a
that's
little
going to
bit.
be another entire podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before.
Well, I can summarize it in 2 words, and they are white supremacy.
Okay.
Okay, so I had done ballroom. I think I had like a hairline fracture in my foot. Somebody told me, "Oh, you should dance salsa because it's low impact," which says a lot about what ballroom people think salsa is. So I go to my neighborhood
That is like
salsa
the
school.
worst thing you could have done.
Totally the worst thing. Totally
Okay.
the worst thing. Yeah.
So you have a hairline fracture. They tell you to go do salsa, and you find.
I was
something-
supposed to be out for like a year and a half, and I was so depressed because I realized I had been dancing pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
This was the first prolonged break I ever had, and
Yeah.
I fell into a deep depression.
Ugh.
Deep. It was heartbreaking. And I had to go. Whatever it was, I had to go. It turned out to be Santo Rico. I didn't know anything about them. I just walked in. I dragged a couple friends. They all left me immediately, and I stayed.
How long were you there for?
At Santo Rico?
Yeah.
You guys know when I left.
3.5 years.
Something like that.
No, it had to be longer. Because
Well, I mean,
if she predated 125th,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but 125th didn't start
They
that
didn't-
much
yeah,
longer
they didn't
from
last.
when we went and took our first class.
okay.
So she
Well,
probably
58
started like
didn't-
02,
Yeah.
and she was gone in at the
05?
end. She was 06.
Yeah.
She was
Okay.
gone she was right after New
That
York
sounds
Congress
right.
06.
Okay.
Yes.
So if I'm not mistaken, you danced.
Cobo.
Yes, Cobo Brothers.
Yeah,
So how long after did you find, like after you kind of got introduced to the On Tuesday?
very quickly. It was,
Okay, so that was like
months. Yeah.
immediately?
Well, it was maybe like 6 months that we were just like dancing in the community, and then we got kind of like recruited to
Okay.
train with their team.
How long were you there for?
I think it was like 7 years.
Oh, so you were there a
7 or
little bit.
8 years. Yeah,
Okay, so you were there for a little bit
I was
before.
there for a while. Yeah,
And then I guess what goes into the decision of you moving to New York?
I wanted to really pursue a career in dance, and I didn't feel that I could do that there.
There?
Yeah,
Okay, and when you moved to New York, your first partner was
Fausto.
Fausto.
Felix.
I remember the conversation Should we even talk about this, Jeff?
We're going there.
When he brought it up,
Yeah.
he did bring it up to me before you came.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
This
that
is news to me.
there was some issues that he had with his other partner. I don't know if we want to say her name.
No, I don't know. I just remember him saying. I remember you guys went to. I think he said. Let me see if I. it's a long
Just
time
go
ago.
with the memories and stuff.
He went to Marrakesh. There was a trip to Marrakesh. You remember that event? Do you remember going to that event? Did you go?
yes.
Okay, so then I'm
Well,
right.
I don't
He
know if
took-
it's the same time.
he went when he came back from Marrakesh. He said, "Oh, I spoke to Isabel from the Cole brothers, and we talked about like possibly partnering up." He was like, "What do you think?" And I said, "Sounds good." Like that was really it. Like, but I remember it was after a trip to Marrakesh.
Yeah.
We went to Marrakesh too, but like way before that, like a couple years before that.
Yeah.
But I remember that situation specifically because I was a little shocked. I was like, "Oh, like I didn't see it." But I guess you guys had a conversation, and then he brought it up to me, and I was like, "Sounds like a good idea." Like, you know
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that conversation. I remember not knowing much about you. Now we saw a video of you, and I was like, "Oh, she's talented." And then it was still very new, Fausto being on his own. So it was kind of like, it was. We talked about this the other day too. Like, I was one point where I don't think it was going ideal for him, and he wanted to stop dancing. That was before she came here, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Right. So, like, I guess when you got here, what was that experience like? How did it go?
It was rough. we had spoken. I reached out to him because I wanted to compete, and he seemed like he was doing his own thing. He had left the team, and yeah, there was some misunderstandings before me getting here.
Okay.
It's tough to
Yeah.
to have two partners. I can't like.
He had two partners at the time.
Well, it's
Well, he
kind of like
he
I'm
had
gonna do
another-
cha 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 with you and salsa with. It's
That's
just,
not gonna work.
I don't see how like that just seems like there's nothing about that seems ideal.
I thought that she knew that I was coming.
Oh, it was one of those things.
That was
It was all black.
that was
By the
not
way,
the
oh,
case.
by the way, kind of thing. This is my other partner.
Yeah, if I'm remembering things correctly, which I'm pretty sure I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's my bad. I should have reached out to both parties, but I didn't. And
Okay.
here we are.
And here we are. All right, let's segue. So, how was your experience in Santo Rico?
Horrible.
Okay.
It was horrible from beginning to end.
Okay. Fair enough. Do you want to elaborate on what do you mean? How like the horror
Well, one
show?
story that I share with my team often is when I started in Exhibición, we had a lot of people that year in the team.
Okay.
It was hard to even remember who was there for what reason or for how long. There were just so many people that were recruited. And I realized very quickly that the idea was it was the Hunger Games. And every single day, somebody was going to leave crying or injured or both. And I made it my goal to do neither, which was extremely hard.
Of course.
It was survival of the fittest. And I don't know how I got it in my mind that that was what I was supposed to do, but I was very determined to do it. I did it and went all the way through to the pro team, but there was going to be a lot more of that the whole time that I was there. And I eventually left through a lot of pressure and threats and exploitation. I mean, you name it. It was not a good experience. Everything that I had to do was by necessity.
Okay. Fuck that guy. Sorry, Isabel. I don't mean to curse in front of you.
What?
Fuck Tom.
Am I 12? I don't.
No, I know. It's just that I curse in front of her all the time. So it's
I
much
curse
more
in front of
normalized.
myself all the time.
All
I
right,
don't,
cool.
I don't know
I just
where,
don't wanna make
where
you
you're going with this.
uncomfortable.
Me and Endo were really upset when you left
Yeah.
because for some reason I have no idea why. You actually like the pro team ladies helped me out a lot later on, but in Exhibición, you were the one that used to help us.
Yeah.
And you like you used to come in and like spin drills, and then you would like literally go do this, do this, do this, do this, do that, and we used to talk about it because we're athletes, so we're used to being coached, and we wanted to be coached. We were very much like bring it. So whenever you did that, we took what you said like
church.
Right.
Yeah, and it was like an interesting thing because Ahtoy was the only one because there was levels, right? You had the semi-pro team exhibition, you had
Mm-hmm.
the pro team, so it was like it's like the major leagues, minor leagues,
Minor leagues, right?
and then for someone to come from the major leagues down to like coach us and help us, we were like, I don't get it,
Right.
but she's here. We're like, we appreciated it because no one else did it.
Yeah, Danny coaches, but Danny was it was like a chore. It was more like
it's
a
not
chore.
the
to
same.
him.
No, it's
But
not
she
the
used
same.
to do it because she wanted to.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
So when you left, we were like, damn, because we were like if first of all,
It
you
was
would get
literally-
nervous if you jumped in, right?
Oh, it was we were.
We
I
would
was
get
super, I
nervous.
remember the first time Ahtoy came, I was like, and she's like, she had the face like, spin me. I'm like, I'm just there. I'm like, whatever.
How far we've
And
come.
yeah, I was like, okay. And then she would say, okay, put your hand here, do this, to that. And I was like, oh. The next person came, I was like, wow, that worked.
And she did
And
it like
I'm
a
like,
teacher.
come on.
Like she would
Yeah.
be like, hey, I love how you did this and this and this, but fix this.
Oh, I was already doing
Yeah.
the shit sandwich back then?
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
Is that what that
Shit
calls
sandwich.
it? Is that what you call it?
The compliment sandwich.
Yeah.
That's
Shit
a
sandwich.
teaching technique.
No, it's
They
a
more
shit
talk
sandwich
about
because
that.
the shit is in the middle.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
That's like in school. Like
Yes.
I work in a school now. When I teach the kids, it's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like they'll answer a question. They answered a question the other day, and it was like nowhere near. And you're like, you know what? I love the way that you went here, but when you think about exponents, make sure that you do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the compliment. But it was kind of like it was detailed. It wasn't como lo digo? Like it was genuine, and we knew it.
You felt it.
We felt it. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
We felt it. We felt that it was genuine feedback. So it was just kind of like, oh, let me jump in with you guys, and it was like, like now there's no excuses.
Yeah, because Ahtoy used to come in on we used to rehearse on Sundays.
Yep. I was just gonna
And
come
then
to
it was
that.
right before the
ladies' class.
Ladies' class.
Mhm.
Yep.
But she used to come in like while we were like right before the class. She didn't have to,
Yeah.
and she was there, and we would just. I was like, oh, it was like very. It was kind of sad. It was not kind of. It was very sad when she left. It was almost
we
like
didn't
I was
understand.
spinning. I was like, man, if Ahtoy was here, she would.
We didn't understand any of that though.
Yeah.
Because look, you could probably relate to this in sports, right? Like, for example, I played for a football team, Bayside Raiders. In my first year, we had 9 games and we lost all 9. And then the next year we won 1, and then the third year we were all of a sudden good, but we were the same group.
Mm-hmm.
So our thing was always like, I never said, oh, I should go play for them because they're better. It was like, nah, we're gonna get good eventually.
The building of the camaraderie as it goes.
Right. So
Yeah.
with the SR, with the coming and going, it's like she left, and then like 2 months later, Jahira leaves, and it's like, well, she's the main girl. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And I didn't really get any of that. I'll be honest with you. Like, it took me a while to really realize like the coming and going. You know what I'm saying? Because like even with my team with Huracan, it's like nobody really leaves.
No,
Everybody's like luggage, right? Like
yeah, they hang out. Like
They'll
they
go
do their own thing,
they'll
but
do
they're
their own
still
thing,
part.
but it's like they're still here.
Yeah.
So in SR at the time, it was just like it was confusing, the fact that people were coming and going, and intricate parts of the team. It wasn't like after the anniversary, I remember we came back to Exhibición and our whole team was gone. And then that's when you joined, and it was like, Jeff, you're the captain. I'm like, dude, I've been here 3 months.
But this was a long pattern that existed before me and that would go on beyond us.
Till it finished.
Yeah.
And if you don't take the long view, you're in it. When you're in an abusive situation, you're in it. You think it's only about you. You don't realize it has happened to people before. It's going to happen to people after. That's the sad situation that has bonded all of us to each other. We are trauma bonded, people. You
Are we?
realize that? Yes, we are.
When you say it like that, it makes me sad. I just thought we loved each other.
Oh,
It doesn't negate the love.
I'm like, no, we're
It
trauma
doesn't
bonded.
negate the love, but I think I'd rather focus on
doesn't,
the love
yeah.
because
There's
Yes.
a comment I may make a little later. I don't know if I'm ready to make it.
I have a question for the both of them first.
Regardless of what you said, but I did make a comment yesterday that had to do with that, and I made it to Julie and Brianna. Shout out to my wife Julie and Brianna, and I made the comment to them last night, and it's just interesting because I guess the biggest difference is that there's a different gender dynamic in what you're saying, right? Like, you're speaking from a female point of view and I'm speaking from a male point of view. So it's like, like, what can I really say, right? Because of that, because we have roles. You understand what I'm saying? Like, the way that it presents itself, right? We may be talking about the same things, but like the way that it presents itself, like, what am I allowed to say as a man, and what are you allowed to say as a woman? So we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
That later.
So one thing I've been touched on was your class. You taught the spinning and styling class, and I remember how packed. I don't even think people can comprehend how packed this thing used to be on Sundays. And we weren't allowed to be there because it was only women that were allowed in the room. We would go to lunch. And I guess my question to the both of you is, like, what women did you guys like enjoy watching or that you guys idolize in our scene when you guys, I guess, started?
I really loved my teacher, who was Nina.
Okay.
Was she still around?
She comes around
earlier.
yeah.
Yeah. And I
we
still
know
write
Nina.
her now and then and really thank her for everything that she taught me. And do you remember Diana Nunez?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
I loved watching her dance.
Yeah, Diana
And
was
she's
my
really
homie.
petite. And so I felt like,
She was a social butterfly.
yeah, really, really pay attention to how she dances. Like, maybe I could find a way to relate. So it was fun to watch her.
And you?
I really enjoyed one of my teachers as well, Annie. She was someone I looked up to, even though at Kobo we didn't have a lot of like female leadership. She was just one of the teachers in the community. She taught with Kobos, but she wasn't on the team.
Okay.
I really looked up to her, and then this one,
I look up to her
here.
too. Yeah, she's good.
I still,
She's really good.
till the end of time, will look up to her.
She's really good.
Or
Yeah,
down.
she's pretty good. She's like,
No, never down. What about women outside? Like, again, like basically like obviously those women were proximal. Were there any people like outside of like the studio or like from your studio that you
well,
guys?
Ahtoy was definitely outside.
No,
of my
obviously her. I'm. Anyone else? Like Jeff and I, and when we talk about like all the people at the time who we like really were like impactful in terms of like the dancing component of it.
I love Tamara.
Oh, okay.
I remember
she's
when
good.
I first saw Tamara, I thought, oh, this is how you can do it.
Yeah, she's really good too.
Like, this is such an elegant, feminine way to dance salsa, which is what I was looking for at the time.
Yeah.
I was just so new. That's just that was the easy target, was elegant and feminine.
She's good. We like
Yeah.
her too. We're big Tito and Tamara fans here.
Yeah. I really looked up to Ana from Masakote.
Yes.
And-
Yeah.
She's good.
And Burju was always a really good friend, and really
She's
looked up
good
to
too.
her creativity and her dancing.
People don't know that because people just see her for the shoes now,
Uh-huh.
but they don't have any idea.
They have
as to,
no
like,
idea.
The creativity and the
They
talent.
do have an idea. She's teaching. She's doing her classes and stuff in Costa Rica.
Oh yeah, is that where they live now? Costa Rica. Oh, I had no idea about that. Okay, so now we go into, I guess, and I always mess this up when I speak to Edwin about it. You started doing competition with, what is it called? I know how to spell it, and I don't know how to pronounce it. Adagio? Am I?
Adage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Adage.
Or adagio.
Which one is it?
The Italian way is adagio.
Adagio.
And then I guess some people would say the French equivalent is adage, but
Okay.
it's the same
You
thing.
competed?
Yes.
You didn't know that? I know that.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I know that, my friend. You better get it together.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
How?
Well, I'm not. So don't forget that when I am coming into the scene, the international circuit of competitions hasn't been formalized yet. So I'm the first generation of judges in our world, but I competed in ballroom.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
and
what I
ballroom has a theater arts division, which is what they call adage.
Adage.
Yeah.
Okay, and this was after Santo Rico you started doing that, correct?
Yes.
How did that go? Because that's something that I don't feel like we talk about enough. I know how good you are when it comes to the list and stuff, but like how we
Who'd
know
you
nothing.
dance with?
Daniel.
Daniel and Sky. You
Oh,
know that?
Yeah.
How'd it go? How was it? Like,
It's an art form that involves partner lifts, but the partner lifts are usually based on ballet. So the concept is that the flyer is dancing from the floor into the air and back into the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I had done this form since I was very young in ballet because everyone has like a different specialty in a way. Some people are jumpers, big jumpers, small jumpers, slow movers, people with extension, and then there's people who fly. And so I was always someone who loved to fly. And so when I met, actually, Tropicana,
Mm-hmm.
when we were all at Tropicana, that I believe it's the same year, I had taken a few lifts that Billy had done and had either created himself during his time in the 70s or with Katie when they competed. And I hadn't consulted him. I just like everybody else, like took the thing and then did it. And he saw us in tech rehearsal. And, usually he's very intimidating and people are afraid to get called out by
I'm
him.
scared of what he said.
He was so kind to me.
No!
I am
What?
so ashamed
What?
that I stole his move, and he so kindly corrected me. He came up to us and he said, "Honey, I'm actually the person who made this move. I appreciate that you're doing it. May I teach it to you correctly?"
Jesus.
See that?
And I was mortified.
Even Billy was
Even
nice.
Billy has a
Even
soft spot.
Billy.
Even Billy was nice once.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Damn.
Yeah. I think I get like the bulk of the nice treatment from
No
Billy.
one does that really.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's such a wonderful
He
story.
treats me
It
nice.
was very sweet. And then they convinced us to start training, and I had to audition with him, and then I eventually became his partner. But he trained me in adage, and the path was to eventually get to theater arts and ballroom.
Oh,
It's
that's
a
cool.
very, very difficult field. And if you think about it, because adage is so hard, physically so hard, people just drop off because they get injured. If you look at the international championships, there are like 17 to 20 couples in the world at one time who are doing this work at that level.
Wow.
And that's it. It's just so hard to do.
Yeah.
So it was a big struggle. I learned a lot.
That-
But ultimately, it's like it really wears on you.
I
Like,
could imagine.
yeah.
Wow, Billy was nice. Could you imagine?
You're still on that, right?
It's
You
crazy.
didn't listen to a word
It's
she
like
just said.
the Loch Ness Monster. Seeing it. You hear about it.
What about you? What was your competition trajectory like, Isabel?
Oh, me. Oh my God. I started competing with Fausto, and we did a few competitions. They went pretty well. Not amazing, but they went pretty well.
What was your best year? What color costume?
Oh my God.
White?
I don't even know if I remember.
I do remember the white number.
Well, no, we were wearing red. We got disqualified for white because my feet came off the ground.
In Puerto Rico?
Oh, in Puerto Rico, no, we got second place one of the years. The second year we competed. Testing my memory. Oh my God.
I heard that in Puerto Rico your music was like a second off.
Yeah, our competitors were timing us, and we were like 2 seconds over.
That's your fault.
Can I tell you something? I got to work the summit this year,
Mhm.
and I didn't realize that was a thing. That is a very real thing, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen.
You
The
mean
frustrating part is that
competitors?
other-
Competitors with like a stopwatch,
Mhm.
paying attention to the clock, and like like don't get me wrong, not that we didn't take it serious, but like when we competed with them, I would have never been like, yo, their music
You would have never been like. I had listen when my amateur team was. There was a couple years we won. There was one year that I had a routine, and it was 2 minutes and 32 seconds. So I
So
sped
it's
up
2 seconds, man.
I sped up the music, and I got it to 2:29. And I remember when they ran, it was bling. When they ran the number, there was a guy with a stopwatch, and I'm watching him, and he clicked it late after the song started, right? So, and I'm like a table behind him, and when it finished, he realized he clicked it late, so he had like 2:28, and he got up and ran right to the judges.
Yeah.
But I always paid attention to that. I was very big on that.
The Italians were very, very upset this year at Summit. Oh, that I get a lot. I don't know. I don't speak Italian, but I know it was nothing nice that was said to me.
Yeah.
I wish I understood.
So I know that there was a year with the music, and then there was a year where your foot came off the ground, right?
Well, they were two different competitions.
Mm-hmm.
At Summit, when we competed, obviously in the on two, my feet came off the ground in our final trick, and but that year we won second place for cabaret.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you were also part of the original Team New York.
Here we go.
The original New
Yeah.
York
The
movie.
real New York
The
movie.
real New York
Ay,
movie. Not that
Dios.
fake shit.
No lo
that you
dije
were
yo.
part of.
That wasn't me.
Not
that
this Diet
fake
Pepsi shit over here.
Yeah.
You guys are the real.
The real Team New York. The real.
We already had the pre-interview warm up about this in the car.
Why? There's nothing lie about
No,
it.
we didn't do it on purpose.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just-
It is what it is.
¿Qué le
It is
pasa,
what it is.
Lupita?
You know, I will say though, as a community, we definitely all were like, we did a social that day that you guys competed, and we actually put it and watched it, and we were all like super supportive of that. Like we were really cheering you guys on.
Mambo, mambo, mambo.
See,
I remember that. We were. It was like
Yeah.
in the Huracan. We
appreciate
saw
that.
and
it.
you guys
Appreciate
won.
the support. We did,
Congratulations!
we won,
Thank you
yeah.
very much for representing New York.
Yeah, anytime.
I'm fucked. What year is that, Jeff?
2015.
How do you remember years like that?
Jeff-
I
Jeff
should
is-
remember.
Jeff
that.
is
Very
like
good
that.
memory.
Yeah.
Jeff has
Yeah.
fantastic memory.
Sorry.
He's our elephant. He remembers
That's
that
all I'm here for is to like fact check
and give us
years.
dates.
I'm whatever the animal is that is losing her memory.
Okay, so after you guys start doing, when did you stop working with Fausto then?
I think it was 2015, which is why I should
2015.
remember that date.
Like around May.
It was
It was
May?
maybe around
May-
2016.
May 2015.
Damn, Jeff.
Can you
Yeah,
answer
Jeff.
my questions for me? Because dates are not good.
Jeff
for
is
me.
great. Yeah, Jeff's great with dates. Do you
I
remember,
just
why do you
remember-
remember this, Jeff?
Yeah, why do you
Why do I
remember this?
remember it?
Yeah.
Why? Because I get a lot of phone calls
Oh,
when things happen.
Yeah, Jeff is
Alright.
the.
I don't call anybody, but I get a lot of phone calls.
Jeff,
No singles, yo, es que tú eres bochinchero. I'm not, it's not that. What happens is that, like, you know, like sometimes people will call me and they'll say that I overreact or this. Because I think one thing is a lot of my like colleagues feel that I'm kind of calm. I don't really overreact much. And you know, I'm usually pretty like laid back. So
I
they
think
go-
that's fair to say. You
Huh?
don't. I agree with that.
I think it depends on the
Nah,
situation.
it makes sense. I always call Jeff. He doesn't pick up because he's talking to other people.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Jeff does get a lot of phone calls, and then he'll go like this to me,
yeah, I'm your friend. Yeah.
and then or he'll call me like, "Hold on a second, this person's calling me. I'll call you back," and he hangs up on.
Yeah.
It. But that is a very, very like a very often occurrence, I guess, with Jeff for sure.
trustworthy person.
Well, maybe I don't know. I don't know. I'm just.
I mean, you should say yes. Yes, Jeff.
I mean,
Huh?
if people keep calling you, then
Trustworthy.
yeah, it seems like the evidence would
That's okay to say yes to that, Jeff.
point to yes.
but you know what's funny though? I also did defend you when that happened.
Thank you. I
I did.
appreciate that.
I did because I was like, yo, what do you think, bro? Like, you just like you have her in limbo. Like she wants to dance, not doing anything. So
Oh, okay, now I remember what happened.
so I did. I was like, that
Would
was
you
my
do,
response.
Isabel? Do you want to give context to what we're talking about? Do you feel comfortable giving context?
Yeah, give context. So in the whole Team New York situation, that was when I started working. Right after that was when I started working with Robert.
Yeah.
And then things kind of took off for us pretty quickly, and it sort of became this conflict.
Between-
But Fausto was working with Maria at the time, and taking, you know, his bachata career was really taking off, and
yes, I
there
do
wasn't
remember.
a lot of salsa gigs for us, so
for
I
that
had to work.
you didn't. There wasn't salsa gigs here, but there was a lot of opportunities for you in the other situation.
So you got to do his best. I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah.
That makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll leave that at that.
What?
You touched one of my sore subjects.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So let's get back to you. Okay.
Okay.
So now,
The silence was loud.
my silence? Nah, you just.
Everyone's.
I'm gonna be honest. I'll be honest.
Uh-huh.
I guess I get it totally. It just I have certain opinions on certain people, but I'll leave it at that.
All right.
So now we get back to you. So now when did you start working with Billy? Because I know you were training with him, you said, and now when do you start actually working with Billy?
I think in 2011, maybe.
Wow, it's been that long.
Yeah.
Damn, I feel like I'm just losing time, Jeff.
I mean, Jeff.
You ever feel like that?
2011? No.
I thought it
You want
was
to
12.
fact check?
Jeff, that
I thought it was 12. That's why I didn't say anything because I wasn't 100%.
I think it's 11 because the summit started in 2011, right?
Yes.
Yes, and I had this audition. So I had always admired Billy, and he was, already what?
I'm just laughing because I'm just thinking about Billy and how crazy he is. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, he was already someone that I knew was an example for the last generation, someone that we should look up to and try to remember and tell stories about
Yes.
when we get older. I knew that at a younger age, and I never got a chance to have a relationship with him because I thought that he was very intimidating.
Yeah, excuse me. Go ahead.
Like many people. So I wasted so many years like not talking to him or, not taking advantage of being in the same space. And I confided in Daniel that I had always wanted to work with him. And he was so frustrated with this waste of time from shyness or whatever. And he grabbed me. We went to his hotel room because we were at the summit. We were judging at the summit, just knocked on his door. And Billy, in his typical fashion, had his TV on like super loud. And was like, come in. Oh, you want to learn a dodge? Well, show me your floorbird, which is where the guy lies down and like supports the flyer by her hips and you have to balance forward.
Yeah, I've seen Edwin do this.
And this whole thing is happening while his TV is like blaring. And it was like my audition. And we did well. And then he said, meet you in New York next week and we start practice.
Cool.
So I'm pretty sure it was 2011.
So let me switch gears a little bit. You've worked with Billy for a long time, but Billy has a reputation for being extremely difficult, right?
Yes.
So how has, I feel like like whenever you talk about Billy, I never fully get that from you. I get it from everybody else. So is it that he works different with you than other people?
Yeah, it is. And that's obviously not fair to other people. And I don't want this to sound like I'm doing something right that other people are doing wrong. But yes, he treats me differently than other people.
He should though, no?
Is it not fair? Is it not fair? I don't right? Cause I don't know.
I would assume that would be, I guess, normal. I guess they have a different relationship.
None
They
of
have
us
different
treat other
rapport.
people the same way. We have individual relationships with everybody.
Yeah, that's what
in
I'm
our
saying. I
lives.
figure that there's a different rapport, there's a different expectation from each other. Again, they've been working together longer. Maybe at some point it was much more turbulent than what it is now. But I would assume
He respects you more.
I wish that it was not about that.
The look on your face.
I don't want this to sound like I'm putting myself down, but I'm a very sensitive person. I'm sensitive to being mistreated, especially because of my experience with Tomas.
Mm-hmm.
I never want to be in that situation again.
Okay.
And so I think Billy can sense and did sense very early on that if he mistreats me, I'm going to be out.
yeah,
And he wants this partnership.
yeah. So he has more of an awareness, I guess. I guess maybe he feels like, hey, this works with this person, and maybe this works with that person, and then there's an adjustment that's made. Is that accurate? Is that
I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
All right,
And
Isabel, I have a question.
Oh dear.
You're an athlete, right?
Sure, yeah.
So how did your coaches treat you when you played sports?
They demanded a lot of work and effort from me, but I wouldn't say that I ever felt mistreated. But I played in sports that had mostly female coaches, if I'm 100% honest.
You think that that's why?
I think that makes a huge difference. Often, not always, but in my case, I was lucky to have coaches that I trusted.
I'm just asking because I played for Keith Miles and for Rick Giannetti, right? And Skip literally said hi to me, shook my hand, The first time when I was being recruited and they wanted me to go, which you came with me.
Yeah.
And the second time was my last game. My last game, he came up to me and he said, "Hey, like, stop by and talk baseball." And I was like, "What?" Because the way he behaved with us was very different. But that was an expectation. It was just kind of like you just felt like, yo, this is coach. And this is how you deal with your coach. Like, this is how coaches are supposed to treat you. So if we got there late, we had to run 5 miles. If we didn't do 5 miles in a certain amount of time, then we had to run 5 miles the other way. And we just did it. So I want to know, where's the line between mistreatment and training? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, no, I mean, we definitely had to deal with that in lacrosse. I think there's a difference when now you're talking about a partner dance and there's physical contact and
There's also gender inequality.
gender inequality, exactly.
Okay, what do you mean? Elaborate on that, please. Like, obviously I know what you mean, but I want to know what you mean in your way or in your way.
And for the audience, right? Because again, like, I want people to have better context, which is why it's important I want to have, like, you guys really elaborate, because there's going to be some layman's people that aren't going to really understand fully. So it's one thing for us to say, hey, we understand it, but maybe they just don't get it either.
So we're obviously in a patriarchal society here in the United States. And then inside of that, we are in a machista, like, microculture in Latino societies. And then in that, we have our partner dance, where there is an assumption that men lead and women follow. And more specifically, that men are in control of the dance and the person who is following, who is usually a woman. So when we combine all of those situations together, we have the perfect situation where a woman can very easily get physically and emotionally hurt because of the amount of power and control that the man has as her partner. So it's just a very basic premise. And then if you have the assumption that this man, that it's okay for him to either berate her, tell her what to do, make her feel worthless, it becomes very dangerous and unpleasant, to say the very least.
It's not the same as, like, oh, run 5 laps because you were 5 minutes late.
Right, and that
It's
the 5
like-
laps maybe contribute to your physical fitness and your ability to do the sport.
Right.
Okay. So I think what you're saying is that in terms of his example, it's more, I guess, congruent with what the actual activity is, right? So if you're late because you run 5 miles, it doesn't matter, because in a lacrosse game, you're going to probably run 5 miles in the game anyways. So it's all attributed and helpful to whatever that situation is.
It's not real. What she's saying
training.
is it's not real punishment, right? It's just.
Well,
I don't know. I think it's punishment, but I don't know. I don't think she's saying it's not real.
Listen. So why do I bring this up? I bring this up because I get that comment a lot. A lot of people say it to me. I get it doesn't make sense because I agree with it, right? I don't think that the two things are the same, right? So, for example, when I dance with Julie, I can be intense. But when we do a rep, like, let's say we argue about something. When we do a rep, and you can ask her this to see if I'm telling the truth. Yo nunca he entrado mano duro. Right? Like, you know how, like,
You've never tried como...
I've never danced like
Sorry.
angry. I've never done that. Right?
Yeah,
like
yeah. I
like
see what
that's
you're saying.
not. I've seen people do that in rehearsal and I've stopped and I've been like, yo, what are you doing? I understand you're upset, but you're gonna hurt somebody. Go take a break. And I stop it. And you know, I know my size, right? I know that it's easy for something like that to happen. So I make a conscious effort to make sure that we're in a good place, right? And I'm not perfect, you know I've had my issues with other things.
Yeah.
But when she said it, like, it's funny because I've done that, but I've never actually said that because it's just something that I do within myself. But she made that point. She said, it's a partner dance and you can literally hurt somebody. Like you can physically hurt somebody by doing a rep too strong.
Yeah.
Right? Throwing someone up in a trick without thinking about it. Doing a turn pattern de malicia porque uno está bravo.
Yeah.
Right?
I get that.
So it's very different, but it does get brought up a lot. They're like, yo, I run my team tough, like just like a baseball coach would run his team. And it's like, yeah, but Skip was consistent. We knew the rules. We knew what the punishment was going to be. It never changed. It was very simple, right? We had certain expectations and we either did it, and if we didn't, there was punishment to be handed out. And the punishment that I got was the same punishment that Scout got, who was our star player, and the same punishment that Pep got, who was our other star player. That didn't change, right? And I guess like that's what I'm hearing, that and that's kind of like a lot of the things that have been going on, right? When you start treating people different and you start like using that power to manipulate situations, that's when we start falling into a lot of situations that we're falling into now, right?
Yeah,
So
and it's
that's
not just physical, right?
Mhm.
It's also you can control whether or not a woman gets a job, whether or not she stays on the team, whether or not she's visible to the public. So many things that, because our industry is run by men and the men are also the leaders, our only choice in these partnerships and in these engagements are as follows. So we're in very low power situations. And so it's a situation that is ripe for a lot of abuse.
Okay, so let's let's segue right into that, because I believe it was last year you guys started. I'll call it a movement because I think that's what it was. I think, and it's been very, very impactful. You guys started a social media page called not just Chisme, right? I'm saying that correctly. So I guess number one, how did the idea come about? And then like I guess when did you guys actually make the decision to kind of take off of it and kind of get it going?
Who wants to go down for this?
What do you mean?
You or me?
Why would you guys go down?
Why did we start? What was the precipitating event?
Or what was the conversation? I'm sure that there was some sort of text message or conversation.
Yes, there were lots of conversations.
Okay.
There were lots of conversations that we had individually with each other, one-on-one. And then the group sort of got bigger. And then when it became the final group, we decided to do something more formal and more visible.
So
Who's we?
I was just going to ask that. Is it okay for you to share who else
Yeah.
is part of the group? Yeah.
Yeah, so we started out as Leah Robertson, obviously us two,
Yes.
Carol Flores, Sabri, and
Christina.
Christina.
Okay. Christina, I'm sorry.
She had a more behind the scenes role. She works with Carol a lot.
Okay. All right. So this launched Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff.
I don't want to be that guy anymore. I'm going to say March of last year, 2024.
So we're just about a year later.
It's been a year.
Yeah, it's been a year. I think it was actually
It was actually the end of
January.
the end of February, actually.
Oh, January.
Because I'm gonna say
February.
I'm gonna say if I'm not, there was a video posted and then there was like a page started and then you guys started shortly after that. So I want to say it was February last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had about a year, right? And I guess I can only imagine the messages that you guys receive from people trying to tell their story. Now, I've always been curious about like the process, and I haven't asked you. We've talked about this briefly at like events, but now that I kind of have you, when people do reach out to you, I guess what is the process? Like once you guys receive it, do you guys have like a specific set of advice that you guys give, or I guess what happens when somebody writes to you guys, just so we can talk about, so people have an idea of what to expect when they do write to you.
So we think of ourselves as a coalition of survivors.
Okay.
Many of us have survived sexual violence in some form or another. And so our first priority is to support survivors. We make space for survivors. We believe survivors. We listen to them, and we try to support them in their path to healing. Sometimes that involves justice. So the first thing that we do is hear them out, acknowledge them. We thank them for sharing and their courage for sharing with us. We try to understand what they want from sharing their story. because some of them want their abusers to be outed. Some of them just want to be heard. Some of them just want to know that they're not alone. So these are things that we try to keep in mind whenever we're receiving and responding to a message. Last year was very, very difficult because we felt that we experienced a lot of opposition, a lot.
What do you mean opposition?
So people were directly against our message, and people even threatened us, threatened our safety, and threatened our livelihoods.
Boom.
Okay.
Okay, that was last year.
That was last year.
That was last year, okay?
Very little, in our perspective, got done in terms of the public's understanding and willingness to change things in the community. I think because of that.
Okay, so hold on. I want to make sure because this is the first time that I'm hearing about that. I don't know if did you guys know about that? Well, maybe I was shared with you in confidence, but this is the first time that you're actually sharing that in public. Is that safe to say, or was it
Sharing
something that was
what?
common knowledge that you guys were threatened once you guys, I guess, launched the page?
That wasn't public.
You guys are just
in
sharing.
any way.
Okay,
Yeah, and our communities knew because I had to tell people, I had to tell the schools that I work in to make sure that a list of people were never allowed in the building. And so
Okay.
thank you. Shout out to Perry Dance and Alvin Ailey for ensuring my safety in that way. Yeah. And Nevadman.
okay.
That's a lot to take
Okay,
in.
so-
I'm sorry. This is the first time I'm hearing that, and that's obviously super upsetting to me personally, because at the end of the day, no one should be making you feel that way. I think we can all agree on that.
Oh, for sure.
Either of you, excuse me. I don't want to seem like I'm singing
No,
her
no.
out. I don't think anybody should be feeling like that, especially. All right, I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
So I was saying that last year felt very different from this year. So
Okay.
last year, I think there was a lot of fear. It was a combination of fear and reluctance to face this as an issue.
Okay.
And actually, I am sadder about the reluctance. I was sadder that people weren't willing to acknowledge that this was happening and that this was harmful for us. A lot of people were like, "Oh, this is just the way it is," or "Oh, this is the women who supposedly were hurt made choices willingly to be in that situation."
Okay.
Okay, so it's not acknowledging that it's a problem. It's not acknowledging that it's harmful. But when I realized that there's a lot of fear with these very powerful men and very powerful schools, I could understand why it's so hard to make a change like this. This year, it's entirely different. And Edwin is telling me this over and over again, that it just takes one person. And I have to say, for this whole time that you've been telling me this, I didn't believe that, because to me, it's not just one person. It's us screaming into the void. Over and over again, people saying something and getting dismissed, people saying something and getting threatened and then having to leave the scene in order to preserve their own safety and sanity. So it's people over and over again getting the courage and risking their own themselves to tell the truth. And then I think it hits a tipping point. I don't think it's just one person, but I think there's a point at which people start seeing, okay, it might be safe enough to come out, or enough is enough.
Yeah, it starts as like a trickle, a story here, a story there, and then all of a sudden, this year.
Yeah, and I honestly think that in this case, and I think everybody is pretty much up to date on what happened, when the first testimony against Jose Serrano came out, action was taken pretty much right away. Somebody took action to take Jose out of a public position or out of a job. And I think other people who came forward right after felt encouraged, like, oh, maybe this time something will happen.
Yeah, and I think so.
You feel that that's why like everybody started talking?
Yes.
Because they felt there's a term for that, but they wanted to see action before they actually stepped up and spoke.
Yes. Because what's the alternative? They step up, right? And then they get threatened, or they are shamed, or they are blamed for the harm, or they stop getting hired, or people just don't like them
Or don't believe them.
or don't
at
believe
all.
them. they get re-traumatized. There's hardly any incentive to come out.
Yeah.
With the truth.
Oftentimes, those of us that try to speak out about these types of things are the one we end up being blamed as being divisive and causing problems and drama, when in reality, we're not the ones that caused the harm.
Yeah, so I just want to acknowledge that so many people have tried
Mm-hmm.
to tell the world, or at least somebody who could help them about abuse
For years.
for years. And there's a lot of people that we don't even see anymore because they're so damaged.
Mm-hmm.
They're so hurt that they're not able to function in this scene.
That's tough to hear. Jeff and I, we actually have talked a lot about this, and it's funny because last year, I guess when everything was happening, someone, I don't know if she was feel comfortable mentioning it, was in the room with us, and actually Edwin was there too, and she was like, "This happens all the time. You guys don't know this," and we were just kind of like, "Yo, what are you talking about? Like, that's not something that like I would be aware of and be okay." Like, and I think that for a lot of us, especially as of recently, a lot of this stuff is like, whoa, what is going on here? Like, this is stuff
I think what he's talking about is the severity of some of the accusations, right? Because it's like, at some point you realize the imbalance of power, and you see the, people trying to take advantage in that, right? But then some of these stories have been a lot more, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Violent. Yeah, violent. And you guys got to remember, like, he's in law enforcement. I was in there for a little bit, and I work at a high school now, and it's kind of like, wait a minute, like, this is happening here. Like, there was somebody in my jail that was here for that same reason, or he's had to deal with that. So, like, again, we've had issues, right? Like, we go back to the mid 2000s, and there were some serious stuff that happened, right? There was somebody from Starlight that got arrested, and we know about that. There was the dancer from the West Coast that was doing things, and he got arrested, and I know that he did some time. So it's not that it doesn't happen, but this is so much closer.
Yeah, but that's the stuff that we know about.
Right.
Yeah,
right. That's what I'm saying.
That's the thing.
It's
Like,
happening all the time.
Yeah.
so I guess my question is, we've seen a lot, like, let's say over the past year, I guess, how terrible, how bad, like, in terms of what you guys are receiving on the platform that you guys aren't even sharing with us, like, to what degree, like, how extensive is it that we aren't even realizing?
Oh, it's bad.
It's bad. It's
It
even
is
worse than what we're getting
bad.
in our inboxes.
And it is such. First, let's acknowledge how horrible it is for people who are surviving this. But even to just do this job that we're doing, we volunteer to do this. We're doing this on our
Yes.
own time. And we have to take care of each other and ourselves when we're reading these testimonies. We get them every day, and they are unimaginable. And we can't share them because that's not what the survivors want.
Okay.
But they need support in some way or another. Most women, by the time they're adults, they have been sexually assaulted in some way or another.
Mm-hmm.
This is insidious, prevalent, and just for the record, all sexual assault is violent.
Absolutely.
It will change you forever. I think it is a form of male privilege that you don't have to see it all the time, that it's surprising to you when you do hear about it. But this is what we're living with every day of our lives.
What would be like what happens now? Like, how do we like start moving forward and fixing what's going on?
I think what's happening now is actually really remarkable. It's never happened before to this magnitude. Never. But the fact that some people are taking action, people are uh, being taken away from these positions of power so that they can't continue to abuse. Survivors are being heard to some extent. They're feeling like it's not just me, so we can all do this together. People are reaching out and supporting. Like you should have seen the party last night at Disco con Salsa for Selena. I mean, people really deliberately came to the party to show with their presence and with their money support for her.
That's awesome.
Yep, we were there. Bila Society was there. We had our care team who are all trained. They're volunteers who are trained in bystander intervention. So they're there. They understand the specifics, the specific risks that people face in our specific activity, social activity. We're there early. We're looking at the space. We're trying to figure out which spots we should watch out for in particular. I had more than 20 people. They're identified by LED red wristbands so that people know these are the people who are caring for the space. They're volunteers, they're dancing, they're participating, they're just like us. We're all looking out for each other. We had a code of conduct that was prominent there. We have an incident reporting system where people can submit online if anything happened to them. Like these are just everything that we can think of to do to make sure that first people feel safe when they're participating at a social, but also they feel like there's some recourse if something happens. That it doesn't just happen in darkness and no one ever talks about it. And then people actively prevent you from talking about it. These things are all important. I think the thing that you're bringing up is the shock that it is even a reality. Just the number of reports that are being put out there today, I think, is very effective in helping people know this is real, this is happening, it's happening to people that you know and love. Do you really want to go another day without doing something? Do you really want to go another day with a predator out there having access to more victims? It could be you next time. It could be someone that you love next time. It could be your sister, your mother, your cousin, your friend. Once people realize this is close to home, this is us, this is our family, this is not somebody else. Every single day that we realize that, we are one step closer to making this better.
You start by believing the stories. Because the vast majority of these experiences go unreported. Because not only is the reporting system and the justice system just as traumatizing, but survivors are rarely believed. And so if we're just thinking about the cases that have gone to court and the ones that have gotten some sort of justice, that is like a minuscule percentage of the reality of what people experience within this community and outside of it.
You know, for someone who deals, I guess, in that space, that's one thing that I don't feel like I hear enough about. Like, I totally agree with you guys 100% that if these people are predators and they're doing this, they should be gone and they should not be a part of our scene. And even more importantly, I think somebody like that should be in jail, if you ask me. Like, you know, so I feel like that's something that I don't hear enough about. Is there... And I know we've talked, you and I have talked personally about the reluctance about reporting this to police and the authorities, etc. Are there a lot of females that have attempted to go to the police and you guys are finding that they aren't getting the recourse that they deserve? And if so, do they explain why that hasn't happened or why they feel or what happened in that process that went wrong?
For the few that we've heard, they are completely... their character is assassinated in court. Mm-hmm. Like that's the main mechanism through which you disprove, especially a woman's story or accusations in the legal system. Mm-hmm. You just paint her to be a bad person.
Okay. And that's their experience that they've...
Yes.
Okay.
Largely. Yeah. But I think much more significant, and the part that we all need to pay more attention to, is what happens, all the decision making that happens before even trying to press charges and get to the legal system, go through the legal system. That's the shame, the fear, the blame, the trauma, the dysfunction of just wanting to not be here and do this anymore. All of that is so much bigger than whatever happens in the legal system. Mm-hmm. And those are all the reasons why someone might not want to even remember that it happened. Yeah. I mean, women, and other survivors who go through this, the biggest thing that they say that is most important to them, that they say most often, is, I just want to forget it and move on. And we all know that's not how it works.
Someone told me that last year when everything started coming out. Someone reached out to me with a friend of mine and said that. She said, hey, this happened to me. And I said, hey, what do you want to do? How can I help? She said, honestly, I just needed to share it and I don't want to do anything. And I said, okay, I respect that. And if something changes, by all means, let me know. So I guess out of respect for that woman, I you know, it hurts me to hear it, but at the same time, out of respect for her, it's almost like, you know, how else do I help and not be pushy or make it worse? Because I think a lot of that, some of us go through also, is like, how do we help without making it worse? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How do we become part of the solution and not the problem? Because I really feel with something as delicate like this, it can easily transition to that without even having the intent of it becoming that. So, you know, and it's unfortunate, like, you know, it sucks that it had to go that way for, you know, whatever which reason. But that was something that I've been having questions about, like, hey, you know, like, what's going to happen when we get this person out of our scene and then they go and they join bowling and then they're doing that to somebody in the bowling league. And then now the vicious cycle in terms of like stopping this person, like genuinely stopping this person from doing something where it's genuinely hurting people. I feel as though in our scene, yeah, we're going to ostracize them and we're going to point them out and people are going to know. But then when they move on to the next thing and the same habits and the same things are going to happen, then it's just another vicious cycle in that particular, you know, space.
Yeah, but we have to think about, what is it specifically about what we do that makes women so vulnerable to this type of violence? It's us. I mean, it's specific to what we do, because sexual assault happens in the world.
Yes,
right?
it does.
But it really happens here.
In our scene, you're saying specifically to to the salsa scene, right? Is that what you're saying?
Or maybe to the partner dance scene, because I think it has something to do with the gender inequality as it is expressed in partner dance, especially in a partner dance that is really heteronormative, where we really have to adhere to our gender expectations of lead, follow, power, no power. There's something about that allows for this kind of power. So if you take a predator out of the salsa scene and he goes bowling, I don't think he's going to have as much power over people who bowl.
Again, that's a bad example. But,
right, I know, but that's important to understand.
Yeah.
And then going back, like, if you prevent sexual assault, even one, it's extremely valuable.
No,
Just think
100%.
about how much life is wasted.
No,
once
trust
you're
me, I totally agree with you 100%. What I mean is more in the sense of, like, again, me, I'm very, like, I'm an extreme, right? So if this person raped this person, I don't believe that they should be free. I think that they should go to jail. I think there should be a price to pay. I think that you owe a debt to society, and that's what the criminal justice system is there for. Now, is the criminal justice flawed? We can have that conversation all day, and I'll agree with you 100%.
It's also difficult to prove that, because it's, you know, it's not like somebody's grabbing somebody in the alley and then they're ripping their clothes and they're doing this and they're doing that. This is like your boy. This is happening with somebody you're close with.
No, I know, I get that.
So when that happens, it's like, you know, well, what's the story? Well, we were hanging out all night. We were doing this. We were doing that. So then
and immediately that's when people start looking for the ways to discredit the survivors.
Yep.
Excuse me?
Immediately, as soon as those questions start getting asked, is when we start discrediting survivors.
Right. And I think that's, like, I think a lot of times when people think about sexual assault, that's the vision they get. What we see on TV when someone grabs a woman in the alley or somebody. So what happens is that in these situations, right, like, there's a million reasons why you could be like, that was fishy, right? You could, like, there's a million reasons why. I'm not saying I'm doing it. What I'm saying is there's a million reasons you could be like, well, you shouldn't have gotten in the bed with that person. Well, why did you do this? Why did you wear this? Why did you drink this much? There's a million reasons why people could fight back, right? And switch what's going on, right? And it's a lot more complicated.
And that's exactly why a lot of people stay quiet.
Yeah, and I can understand that. I can understand that from working res life, and I can understand that from a few situations that I worked here. One of the issues that I have is that I also think there's not enough, like, I'm trying to say this the right way without, like, I feel like there has to be more, and I said this a couple years ago when the issue happened with Robert, and I actually put something out when that happened. We kind of taught, like, when you come in here, this is what the scene is supposed to be like, right? By people ahead of us, the people that were before us. I feel like there's not enough, like, education as to, like, listen, you know, these are the type of for I'm talking more for men. These are the type of situations you're going to be in. You need to respect the situation. You need to I truly believe that anybody can do whatever they want sexually if it's done correctly, if there's consent, if everybody's agreeing to it, and things like that. I think, like, when we started dancing, we were put in a position where it was just like, yo, you need to try to kind of get what you can, right? And
but at the same time, to touch on a little bit what Ahtoy said earlier, I think at the end of the day, it's all about the dynamic of, let's just put it, it's very simple, lead and follow. You know, I show up, I'm the lead, you're the follow. It's right away. It's right there subconsciously. Those are the, you know, it doesn't matter. It could be the reverse roles, whatever. If you are considered a follow, subconsciously there is a little bit of a weird dynamic as you go along. And I think, you know, the education has to start there.
Right, but that's what I mean. Like,
meaning, no, I'm not disagreeing. I'm trying to add a little bit to what you're saying in terms of everything. But what I'm saying is that right there says it all, in that sense, where if I know that I'm the lead, or she's the or, you know, Ahtoy's the follow, whatever, we're dancing, I have to understand the, you know, what's going on in that sentiment. Like, I can't just, I think it gets carried away where I think people just don't,
or take advantage. I think what you're saying.
of course.
Yeah.
But it's just this kind of, you know, obviously, you know, I can't speak for everyone, but at the same time, at least for me, I try to understand that dynamic immediately, because it's the only thing that keeps me sane is that, like, you can't just, like, go off the rails just because, you know, you're
what I'm trying to say is that, right? Like, those things, right? Like, we went to college, we dormed, we partied, we did our thing. When we got here, our experience was a little bit different. We behaved I feel we behaved a little different, hopefully, right? And we made an effort to try to follow those things that you're saying. But there also has to be an effort to teach the students in the school, like, hey, you're in the scene. This is what it is. You know, there's alcohol involved. You know, I'm not telling you can't do this, but what I'm telling you is you got to be responsible. You got to treat everybody with respect, like those things, right?
Yeah, but that's also by leading by example, because
Right,
I feel
Jake,
like the
but
three of us.
but-
And again, I can only talk about us. It's hard for me to discuss anyone else.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, right? I am in a position of power. I know it. I run a dance studio. I run a team. I'm in a position of power, right? We train people. We ask people to join our teams. And what we think our job is to teach them how to dance. But the reality is, this is a social atmosphere first. Most people are not going to become pros. Most people are going to dance for 2 to 3 years. So if you live 70 years, what percent of your life are you really dancing? Right? So at the end of the day, it's more important to teach that. Somebody told me, yo, you're not here to teach. Why do you meet so much with your teammates, like your team members, when they're having issues? Why do you try to mediate so much? That's not your job. Your job is to teach them dance. Well, no. If they're entrusting me as a director, my job is not just to teach them dance. It's how to behave in a social setting. It's how to social dance properly and have etiquette and behave right. And if you're going to go on a date or do this, those conversations, we had them all the time in our studio. We talked about that all the time. I had a meeting with my team on Thursday, and all of our ex-team members, they showed up through Zoom, right? Dorn will tell you. And they asked me, yo, Jeff, is it okay if I sit in? Yeah, you can sit in. And I said it. We had these conversations all the time, and we talked about it because they were out. You know, they were out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
They were out and about. And they used to tell me, oh, you don't go out, you don't do this. Like, bro, I've been doing this for 15 years. We used to go out all the time. So we get it. We understand it. But as directors in a position of power, those are things that we have to teach. Right? Because I'm going to say, like, before, I know women that have told me, yo, I've gotten into this situation. But you know what? I shouldn't have drank that much. Like, they got one over on me type of deal because I drank too much. And it's like, nah, that's not the way it works. Like, that's not okay. That's not okay. That's not like how it's supposed to happen. It's not like, yo, someone got one over on you because you slipped. That's not the way it works.
The only person responsible for a rape is the rapist.
Amen.
That is really important that we say that and that we understand that and we know that. And unfortunately, I had to learn that in therapy. With my assault, I had somebody broke into my room, and I was told directly by the police that it was my fault because I didn't secure my door properly. I believed that for so many years. You're in an alley, the typical rape, like maybe the rape that we even think like gets resolved
all of the
correctly.
justice, right?
Yes.
Which of course it
Why
doesn't.
were you
It was
in the
my
alley?
fault.
Why were
I
you
was in the alley.
alone
Yeah.
at night, wearing heels, wearing a dress.
Right, wearing a dress. It was my fault I was drinking. It was my fault I was flirting. It was my fault because I actually did want to have sex with somebody at some point in time and then change my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's my fault because I didn't fight. It's my fault because I didn't say no.
Mm-hmm.
The only person at fault is the rapist. I think what you're saying is that we are being taught actually a rape culture, and we're all being taught a rape culture. Rape culture is teaching people that it's okay to comment on women's bodies. Women learning that we're only valuable if we're sexy. When we show up at a social, we gotta wear a dress and heels, makeup. If someone doesn't ask us to dance, we're not important.
Mm-hmm.
We make jokes about it. We're telling women somehow in the hypothetical, if something happens to you, you should be really ashamed. If there's a fine line between like being interesting and fun because you put out and then being a slut.
Mm-hmm.
All of this is rape culture. We're taught this. I saw it in Santo Rico. Like there would be a way of behaving out in the studio, and then when you went into the office, there was a whole different culture in there. I saw young men being taught, and you know who they were, young men that I was close to, teenagers being taught how to treat women in this way, how to mistreat women. Mm-hmm. Let's look at even like a really adjacent partner dance world outside of ours, like swing dance. The first time I went to a swing dance event, I was in the bathroom with a bunch of women, and I was dressed like I was taught to dress. And the women were like, oh my God, where did you get this dress? Look at your heels. How did you do your hair and your makeup? And I realized everybody was wearing pants and flats. And I was like, whoa, what is this about? And my internalized misogyny told me, wow, this is very unattractive. Like people don't know how to dress here. And I didn't realize they have a different gender dynamic. This is a world where there are women who can lead and men who can follow, and it's cool. Mm-hmm. So there isn't, I'm not going to say there isn't gender inequality, but there's less. It's a different kind. And ours is really, really extreme. You ever ask yourselves, like, why do we have to have a brand new outfit for every Congress night?
Oof.
Like, that seems like a trivial thing,
Wait a
but
minute.
it's telling us something
You're
else.
talking to the wrong guys about that.
I know. I mean, maybe all of us here, actually.
Yeah, right.
Like,
we are not
like,
those folks.
no. Yeah.
No,
That's
but
the worst. That's the worst part about going. That's the worst part about packing.
Yeah.
I pack literally in 15 minutes, but I spend an hour trying to figure out my
Your
outfits,
outfits.
let alone, theme nights.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, Jeff and I, we do 2 events, and we buy suits because of that.
Yeah.
There is literally, and it's literally those 3 events, and I'm like,
it's interesting you put it that way though, because I like, in some way, I feel like I've always felt like that's something what separates Congresses from socials, right? Like, there's something that kicks it up a notch. I'll be honest, I'll say it again. To me, it's more the social component than anything else. Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, you can take classes, but how much can you really learn from one person in an hour if you're not training with them consistently? But there is something special about getting together with your friends that you don't get to see because we work. Me and Adam don't hang out that much, but we go to a Congress.
and it's never the dancing part. It's the other, like us hanging out, talking in the room kind of thing. And it's more like just like that stuff is the more important stuff. I feel like we're just hanging out and we order Chinese food and we're not even doing the dancing part and we're just talking and laughing amongst each other or having a serious conversation, because that happens too. And those are the things that I want to go to a Congress for. It's interestingly enough, it has never to do with like the dancing part. It's more like hanging out amongst us, and that's kind of what we've turned into as of late, because that's kind of what we do when we're at these events.
I want to make one other point, and I feel, again, I feel like the scene it's changed a bit in terms of like age. I feel like the scene has gotten younger. I feel like there's a lot of change from. So when me and Edna started in Exhibition, I felt like we were the young guys. We were 22, 23, and we were super young, and then everybody else was a lot older than us. I feel like right now, the student teams are getting younger and younger and younger. And I feel like there's not enough, like, education to the change from being a kid dancer to being a teenager to being an adult. I feel like there has to be more discussions about, hey, there's kind of like things are changing. Like, let's talk about it. Let's understand what is going on. Like, think about you being in a kids group and then going to your first like adult Congress.
Yeah.
And then going into the bachata room where the lights are like off. And you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's a big issue also. Again, I feel like it's a director issue. I feel like if we're going to be directors and we're going to put people on a team and charge people to be on a team, I feel like we have a lot more responsibility than we think. It's not just teaching dance. I feel like there's lifestyle things that we need to kind of put out there and talk about and have conversations about if we're going to do that. If we don't want to do that, that's different.
Yeah.
But if we're going to be directors, then there's definitely other conversations that need to be had.
I think we have to look at our industry too, because we're working in extreme capitalism right now too, which is why our industry is expanding so fast and people are not prioritizing like taking care of each other. They're prioritizing turning a profit. That's the world that we live in right now. In the US, salsa as an industry coincides with nightlife, clubbing, adult nightlife. Right? It's not a place for kids. It's just not a place for kids. Around the world, when salsa is more a part of community culture, it's not nightlife. It's socializing. It's being with your family and being at a family party, dancing with your cousins. So we have to understand how we're operating as an industry, where the money is, what our priorities are, and that's putting kids in danger. If we can acknowledge, at least for adults, that our world coincides with nightlife, we have to find a way to be sex positive, because that's why adults engage in nightlife for the most part. They're looking to engage sexually, hopefully in a safe way. But in salsa, the bar is really high for people to spend years learning a skill to just show up at the nightclub for sex. Like, it's just not the same thing. Like last night when we were at the event, I have my team out there and we're like working so hard just to make sure that the space is safe. And for most of the time, we're like, it's still early. People have not had enough alcohol yet. Like, everything is fine. For the most part, everything's fine. People are genuinely there to dance, and it takes so much time and investment to get there to be able to engage, right?
Yeah, of course.
But 11:30, the lights went out, strobe lights, reggaeton. I saw at least a few butts like directly in front of me. And I was like, what's happening? Because I didn't know the party had ended and that it had transitioned into somebody else's party.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, oh, if I had to monitor this space, it would be impossible because the goal is different and the bar of entry is way, way lower.
Okay. I guess
So-
I see that.
Yeah, I think for me, my next goal, and also for Not Just Chisme, is to figure out how we can keep everybody safe while still being sex positive for adults,
Absolutely.
but absolutely not mixing nightlife with teaching kids how to dance salsa.
Mhm.
Why? What for?
That's an interesting point. I get it. I could imagine exactly the change last night, especially there.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, I guess I have two questions. Number one, and you probably can't answer this accurately, but I want you to forecast. I guess how much worse does it have to get before we can get it better?
I think it's going to have to get a little worse.
It's gonna get worse.
I think it's going to have to get a little
I mean,
worse.
I think it's kind of what I told Ahtoy not too long ago. I said, and it was interesting because right before when I told Ahtoy this, an accusation came out, and it kind of just took off. But I told it only takes one person, but there's power in numbers.
Mhm.
I mean, all right. I told this to you the other day, but look, a guy like Bill Cosby. I mean, 70 accusations. That's a lot. I mean, you're gonna sit there and tell me. I mean, even if he didn't do any, but he had one. That's still a lot. But 70 people, like 70 women or whatever the case may be, that's a lot.
It's so sad that
Before
that's
you
the
start,
example.
and that has to where
we
you have to go.
It's really sad.
And it's sad. I mean, it's sad that it has to be like that. But I think as the more we see it, the more I think we're gonna have to take responsibility.
And I asked you
as
guys,
a community.
I asked you guys
meaning like
because
that.
if you guys have your hand on the pulse, so you guys are receiving the message and you're
Yes.
reading everything. And I'm not. I don't want you guys to share because there's something obviously you guys can't share. But you guys, if anyone knows, I feel like it's the both of you.
Yes. I
So-
mean, just look at our public document where we've compiled all public testimonies of this in one place, at least the ones that we've received permission to share.
Right.
Okay.
And these are
Consent and
people who
everything.
have really risked a lot to put their name out there and to put this on social media. It's a huge deal for them to do that.
I
And
haven't
we've
seen
just
that.
put it in one place.
Yeah, it's on
The
the I
link
see
in our
it.
bio.
But the private stories that we're hearing, and we have plans to share a platform for survivors who just want to express themselves or to tell their story in an anonymous way as a path to healing, not for justice. They're not going to get it that way, but to be heard and to be in a space that is for them. I mean, that's when you will really see
Mhm.
countless stories. So yeah, our perspective is totally different, but two things have to happen. More people do have to come out and more people have to take action.
Yeah.
It's either deplatforming people who are harmful let's say supporting people who are genuinely trying to make the spaces safer.
It's
And
gonna-
when we see that, there's going to be more and more.
And then alongside education. Because this is
Absolutely.
the new generation. Like if we do that for the new generation, that'll change everything. Because this is new people out there. So if you do that along the lines as what Ahtoy mentioned, all that keeps happening with education as well, educating people how to be the new people. It'll just even telling people where to go.
So I have
You know
another
what I mean?
question. I actually mentioned this week that I was going to attempt to get you guys on to interview you guys, and because I was super excited about it. I've been talking about it all week, and then once we finally got you guys to say yes, I mentioned it to someone else in our scene, and they asked me a question, and I was like, I don't know if I want to ask that, and they were like, no, man, like you should ask it. I'm not to be a jerk, but more just out of curiosity. So I was like, you know what? Maybe. So here's the question. One of your partners in this, she made a post, I believe it was about a week ago, about how I guess someone reached out to her and expressed some issue with, I don't remember exactly verbatim, but I do remember reading it. But it was more like, and Karel made an acknowledgement that one of her students had reached out to her and expressed to her that I guess
They
she was.
felt that she treated them bad.
Is that, yeah, to that effect? I don't exactly know how. I don't remember the details. So I don't want to equate the two. I just curious. So the question was, in terms of the power and the abuse, is where do we, I guess, stack it in comparison, and then also where do you guys feel like, I guess that's not you, the story that you guys mentioned with all your accounts, that wasn't mentioned in it. So they were like, at what point do we make sure to acknowledge everything, and where do we stack everything in terms of equating everything?
Wait, how do we compare abuses? Wait, there's a lot in here. Wait,
I got you.
let me
Yeah,
just
exactly.
say-
Which is why I
hold
was
on.
like, yeah, I don't know if I want to ask this.
First, I have
The
to
first
say
question-
that that's Carol Flores, and she's no longer part of Not Just Chisme. She stepped away for other responsibilities, and we also
Okay.
have a few other members who have just joined us.
Just joined us.
One of them is Julissa from the DMV, and another person is Sam from Chicago. So you'll hear more about them. But that's important because I didn't mention them in the beginning. They're
You
not
mentioned
the
the
original.
reason, I guess,
Yeah.
in
They're
the beginning
new
when I
members.
asked who started it, I just presumed that she was still a part. So I apologize.
Right.
Because I didn't ask who was currently a part.
Right.
I asked who I was started. So I guess that was the question. Well, I guess it doesn't matter anymore because she's not obviously a part.
Right.
group.
But then also we ask for consent for
Mm-hmm.
these stories if people want them to be published
Okay.
or as part of the
As part of the
collection.
doc-
and again, we're
document.
not publishing them,
Right.
but
Got
we're
it.
just collecting them.
Got it.
The
And I
question
believe-
about, sorry.
No, I believe that was she. I think she had posted
She
some
posted it
anonymous
herself.
thing.
No, I think
for
Carol
people to-
posted it herself so people can
Yes.
see it.
Yeah.
And then she responded
She
to
did.
it.
What
Yes.
Isabel was saying is the not gonna lie, like the
Yeah,
that what it was?
anonymous. The
it was submitted to something that she posted on her stories, so that wasn't a story that was. I think it was anonymous, and so
Mhm.
we're only publicizing, we're only sharing in the document stories that people are sharing publicly,
Okay, fair enough.
and also, it's impossible for us to keep track of everything.
I can imagine.
I think
doing
that
our
was
best.
one of the issues I had last year, right? Like we want to believe survivors, but it's very hard when you get posts and there's not a name or a face to put to it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's hard because, right? If someone puts something out there and they say, hey, Edwin did something to me, my first reaction is gonna be like, Edwin, what? Right? And then it's like, who put that up? Well, someone made up a page and they put it up. And then, so I think initially, like, those are some of my hesitations, right? And I had conversations with all those people and I asked them for their side and they gave me their side. And, I kind of took action anyway, in my own way, because we did take action. Just because we didn't do it publicly doesn't mean we didn't take action. We did. But I think it's different when you put a face to what's going on, or a name, because
Not
it's
everyone's reason for sharing is the same.
right. And again, we get that because we dealt with a situation where someone told us something privately and we took extreme action, and we've kept it to ourselves for years. But we did take extreme actions. We took actions that, I'll be honest with you, I don't think a lot of people would have. And whatever, we dealt with it. We paid for it. We dealt with it, and we've moved on. But it's different because at the end of the day, at least we had a conversation about it. And then Abel and I kind of just did what we had to do. And we've always kind of kept it.
It was hard. And it was hard because we were ostracized at the time. And no one had any sense to say, hey, what's going on here? Or, you know, are these guys okay?
What? It was like crazy.
Yeah. And it was like,
you just, you know, you just want to show everybody that you're the shit.
Yeah, it's like, egocentric. And
so imagine how the survivors feel.
No, and that's why, listen, that's why, look, and this, just to be very clear, I have responded to that call. I've interviewed that woman. I've gone to that woman's house to collect evidence. I've escorted that woman to the hospital. I sat there all night with her. So I understand and I get it. And trust me, we are advocates like you wouldn't believe. I'm a huge proponent of what you guys are doing because at the end of the day, you guys are correct. There is no wrong here. If someone is this much of a piece of shit, they should go. Full stop. And I think that there's no other way to put it. There's no nice, and there shouldn't be a nice way to put it either. It's simple. If you are a piece of shit, you should go. So for me, I totally, number one, I get it. I get where you guys are coming from. It sucks because again, for us, you know, the prevalence of it is shocking and it shouldn't be. And again, you guys are the ones with your hand on the pulse. You guys are the ones that are receiving the messages every day. And I can only imagine what you guys have read. And it's probably 10 times worse than that. If I can't even imagine.
I bet that it's probably affecting work too.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. I mean, there's two other things that I want to mention just based on this conversation. And that's one, things are going to get worse. And they're going to get worse for survivors. And they're going to get worse for us. Because, I mean, even having this conversation with 3 advocates, it's still having to prove that survivors are survivors and that we went through this. And so there's this expectation of being the perfect victim in all aspects in order to receive any ounce of justice, or even believability. And it's just gonna get worse because predators and harmful people in this community and in other communities are gonna want to not let these truths come out, and we're gonna be vilified for going on witch hunts and wanting to cancel people and cancel culture. And it's not about that. It's about accountability and keeping our community safe. But it's absolutely going to get worse before it gets better.
Isabel, I'm gonna just say a name, but you did something with DJ Soul Tricks, and I saw you I felt like you single-handedly shut that shit down. That was like really crazy to me at the time, because it was like I didn't know what was going on, and then I realized he was supposed to do an event, and you went out and you put out some receipts, and we talked about it. Abel and I talked about it. And it was shocking, but at the same time, it's like we've had that conversation also. It's like, you know, I know that this is a gentleman that's popular in his side of the world, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know,
you single-handedly stopped that.
I was not alone. I had a lot of support.
You do, but what I mean is your voice. I think your voice echoed. And look, I don't know that man like that. I met him once or twice. I clearly don't agree with any of his sentiments, and I don't quite understand why he wants to be a part of our community with his sentiments. It doesn't make any sense. It's kind of like, you know, you feel this way, but then
it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's like, bro, what are you talking about?
This is
what it is.
There's other spaces for you. This is just not it.
Yeah,
but even with all of that, it was people jumping to justify their support of him. And it just makes no sense to me. And I was the one being called divisive the entire time, when even with all of the proof and receipts, words from his mouth.
But nonetheless, he definitely was removed by those promoters for that event. And I think that again, us observing from the outside, again, we don't know the inner workings.
Well, the event still happened, and it was still DJ Sultrix themed. He just
What does
wasn't.
that mean?
He just wasn't there.
Like,
They
what do you
played
mean?
his music the entire night.
Oh, okay.
You see how hard it is?
Yeah, and that was with proof from
With
his
proof.
own mouth.
And
Yeah.
he's still at
And
it, by the way.
page.
You gotta see his comments on our page.
Oh God,
Because it's not just his views on
he's blocked.
Palestine.
I don't see his.
I mean, he
comments.
just makes his own bed.
He comments on you guys' like.
I
he's-
mean, right?
I don't have to see
old
any of them 'cause I have
misogyny,
them blocked.
victim blaming, gaslighting. I mean, the works. It's almost like
It's our fault.
ChatGPT
It's
wrote
always
it.
women's fault.
Yeah.
Everything is our fault.
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess God bless him. I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me.
Anyways, I want to address especially for the public, the issue of comparing abuses, because
Okay.
we have heard that from other people. Like, well, if we platform a story that is not about sexual abuse, that somehow it takes away from the weight of sexual abuse. I personally don't understand that.
I don't either.
I don't think the existence of other types of abuse in our scene changes anything about the reality of sexual abuse. And I don't understand why people can't hold the two things in their mind. I also think that abuse exists in a pattern, and when it does exist in a pattern, we need to pay attention to it and we need to do something about it. It's not a one-off. The people who are the biggest abusers in our community, they're abusing in many different ways. They might rape women, but they're also making it hell for other men, for young people, for the people they are supposedly in relationships with, for the people who work for them. Anyone that they have power over, they're doing it because it's about power.
Right.
And that brings me to the situation where you hear a story, but you don't hear a name. And maybe it's hard to believe. A lot of people feel that way. I understand. But we have to understand also that the biggest reason why people don't come out with their names is because of power. The power creates an environment of fear and makes it very hard for a person to come out. So when you see a story that doesn't have a name, instead of thinking, oh, it's not legit or it's a lie, maybe consider that that person is very, very afraid, which means that the abuser is very, very powerful, and we should care even more that they haven't been named.
I think just to clarify what I was saying, I worked in Res Life, so I dealt with a bunch of different cases. Some were, I would say, a lot of them were, most of them were true to a certain, like, one way or another, there was truth. But I did deal with a couple of situations that were not true, that were admitted, that were proven that they were lies. And I think once that happened, I've always kind of told myself, try to be objective first. And that's what I try to do. I try to hear it out. You posting something anonymous is not the same as the situation I saw last year. Like, just watching the dynamics of that situation, yes, it made me question some things, because if you look at the timeline from Monday to Friday, the story looked very, very different. So it made me feel a little bit uneasy looking at it. Like, okay, this happened. Okay, you hate this person. Okay, this happened. Okay, now you love the person from Monday. That's how it felt.
Okay, I remember what you're talking about now.
That's how it felt. It felt that there was something really inconsistent about it, and then it just disappeared, and it made me feel like, what happened here? So I didn't know how to take that. Now, does that mean I'm right? No, I'm being honest as to what I saw in that situation. I think it's different if you guys put up an anonymous post, because I feel that there's a confidence that you have gained that I don't have, that Abel doesn't have, right? It feels different. This platform feels different. It feels genuine. It feels,
there's honesty, and I trust, me personally, I trust you, right? And that doesn't mean I don't trust you, Isabel. I trust you as well. But I can look at you in the eye, and I know that if you're going to put something on that platform, I know it's real.
listen,
I would never question your integrity in terms of something like that. So if you're posting something anonymous on your page, I know that there was a question that was asked, there was a consideration that was made, and that's why you guys are putting it forward. And there's nothing for me to ever question in terms of my interaction or my experience.
He never told me. Somebody contacted him. He didn't tell me who it was. And that's fine. But he said, "Yo, I got somebody contact me and did this." Somebody contacted me also from another country. I have no idea why, no clue why. But somebody contacted me, and they came off as like kind of attacking your group. And then they wrote to me and they said, "Look, here's my story. I'm just never gonna tell you who I am or why." And they told me their point of view. And I think the attack on your group was more, again, of the power dynamic that they wanted to blame somebody else. But that story felt very real, and I didn't know who it was. Just by the conversation, the back and forth conversation, it felt real. It felt like this, I didn't know who it was. What I'm talking about is a specific situation where I felt like now my training has also told me that inconsistency is part of abuse. So I know that also. I'm not oblivious to that. But if somebody writes to me as a promoter and they say to me, "Hey, take this person out of your lineup, they're abusive," page deleted. What do I do with that information? Because I get that too a lot. So I'm asking you. They write to me, "Hey, listen, this person should no longer be in your lineup. They're abusive." And I write, "Okay, can we talk about it?" Page deleted. So now what do I do with that information? The only thing I can do is ask around, right? So now I can ask around, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get any type of answers, right? So where does that leave me? What do I do if I bought a plane ticket and now somebody writes that and I never hear anything else from anybody else? It's a difficult decision, right? And we've made difficult decisions.
Yeah, the problem is not making the difficult decisions. We can make them.
We can make the difficult decision, but at the end of the day, it's just sometimes it's just, okay, what do I do with this information? I don't know what to do with it. I've never heard anything of this sort. None of this has ever came out. I can investigate and ask around and talk to people, and it's like, no, I've never heard that. No one's ever said that. So now, is this malicious? Is this true? What do I do? How do I go forward with it? That's really more my thing. And believe me, we get that also, right? We get that situation a lot more often than we talk about, right? Because it's just, it's easy to make a phone call when something comes out and it's like, "Yo, hey, Jay, here's what's out there."
We had that conversation this week.
We've been having this conversation for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we had this conversation with one of our team members, and they were like, "Hey, what are we gonna do about this?" And it's like, okay, and we're constantly doing it amongst ourselves, and we're trying to figure out what makes the most sense and how to help the situation as best as possible. Also, because I feel like for example, I wanted you guys to come on the platform this week because number one, I wanted to talk to you guys about your dancing careers, but also I feel like this is so important right now, and I feel as though there was only one other time that you guys have been able to do this, and if I had to I think it was the Fusion event. I think that was the only time that you were, and I know specifically I saw you speaking at that event, but I feel like isn't any other opportunity for you guys besides what you guys are posting to actually do this and actually express yourselves. And I also do feel that people need to see you and because there are some people that may not know, hey, these are the people that we can go to about this. Your page is a little ambiguous in terms of having a person because it represents so much more. And I feel like that was intentional on you guys' part. But I also feel like, hey, these are the advocates. We want you to know who they are, and these are the people that are going to be helping you, and people need to see that as well, right? But we are also trying to navigate through the space to be part of this. Like, again, that's something Jeff has always said. Either you're part of the solution or you're part of the problem. And we're trying to...
I'll be honest with you. When the situation happened with Robert, I put a post up. And I got so many shares and so many likes and so many messages. I feel uncomfortable putting anything up. I'll be honest with you. Because I was like, yo, what are we celebrating here? We shouldn't be celebrating this. This is not a party. Like, this was not meant for a celebration. This is not like me doing a show and being proud of it.
And we also felt this wasn't about us.
Yeah.
Like, for me to say, hey, thanks for coming out. Jeff and I really feel this. And it's like, yo, this is not what this is about right now. This is about a time where we're supposed to be listening and reflecting, taking a moment to reflect, honestly, to actually do something. But I also feel like there's been, and it sounds really fucked up to say it, but I'm going to say it. I feel like there's some people that took an opportunity to really go out there to say something in support and then talk about themselves. And in my head, I'm like,
and for some people, it's like you shouldn't really be putting that out there because it's like there's a clock on you. Like, you're next.
Yeah.
And
seriously.
So,
let your actions speak.
Right. I mean, there's certain things that I am really pleased that people think they have to tell the public right now. For example, a code of conduct, or just saying, we want a safe space. Great, wonderful. I think everyone should have a code of conduct. That's like the default. I mean, New York City clubs have codes of conduct, and they have private security, and they're enforcing it. If they can do it for profit, why aren't we? Like, why haven't we connected that we're not going to make money if people get hurt at our events? Just to put it in a really capitalist perspective. So everyone should have some default things, but the rest is just action. Actually do whatever it is that you can think of and invest your time, money, and energy in making the space safer. And that's going to take a long time. And I'm really dismayed at how some people have used these public statements of we're safe in order to cover for the harm that they've committed over many years.
Yeah, it's gonna be an uphill battle. I know that because I'm gonna be honest. I feel the Congresses, the two events we have are gonna be a challenge this year. I know that for a lot of reasons. I feel like people may start not going to events. I mean, the CSBF just postponed their event. That's that's a blow.
That's significant. Yeah.
I know that it's scary, and I know that this is not a good comparison, but the last social that I had, people came out and they specifically said, I'm here because I don't want to support other people who are very harmful. I want to support what you're doing. I don't have a big social. My social's free. It's really for my students. And yet people made an effort to come out and support. Last night, Disco con Salsa packed. So I just don't want people to use the idea that if we deplatform some harmful artists or DJs or people in power that we're going to lose our Congresses. Yeah. Because people have been already using that as a threat for us to not talk about this.
I think what Jeff means is I think people are not comfortable. That's why I don't think it has anything with removing people.
Right, but I'm saying there's another way. People should be uncomfortable.
Right, exactly.
People should be uncomfortable that this is happening to us.
We should listen to that.
But there's another way. You can make a safe space and say, hey, come here. We're doing everything that we can to make this space safer for you. And with all you here and you are educated on this issue, we're all looking out for each other together. We're doing this activity together as a community. We're all keeping each other safe. Everybody wants to do that. Everybody wants that. Everybody feels good about that.
Well,
we'll find out.
We're going to find out for sure.
We're going to find out.
Yeah, I believe in you.
Do you?
And I want to bring it back to how we started, okay? Because you said that you liked having me in Exhibición. I danced with Exhibición. I worked with Exhibición for years. after I was promoted to the pro team. It's something that I really enjoyed doing, but I enjoyed specifically working with the two of you because one thing that made you stand out is that you were not afraid, one, to learn from a woman. Two, you were not afraid to learn. You never took what I was asking of you the wrong way. You never approached it with ego. You have always treated me with respect. And my partner over here is never thinking about our relationship as just leading or controlling my body. And he actively teaches other people that leading and following is an interaction. A lot of times, essentially what he's teaching is how to follow your follow.
Right.
How to make sure that this is something that we're doing together equally. And he's always been like that. And so I know that you are coming from a different perspective, that some of this is shocking to you because it's just not how you live your lives. The problem is that we're seeing very clearly that the people who are rewarded, they're the people who are at the top of our industry, they're a specific kind of person. They kind of all look the same. They all adhere to this very specific beauty standard, first of all. Right?
They adhere to what?
They adhere to a very specific beauty standard. Men and women.
Yeah.
We have a stereotype of a salsero and a salsera.
Mm-hmm.
And we are all trying to be that without asking why. A very simple way to make our communities better and safer is just to allow more people to succeed and be rewarded and seen. Different people with different values and different perspectives and different backgrounds. I mean, we talk a lot about LGBTQ advocacy in our scene because we have such a cis heteronormative world that even like talking about these issues and letting people express their gender and sexuality in a different way is healthy for everyone. But it goes beyond that. It's just like there are so many talented people who could be dancing up there at your event. They don't all have to look the same.
Yeah.
Right? Room for us, room for people like us who think a different way. It just so happens that we're not out to harm people. There are lots of other people like us. Most of us are not harmful people. There's a little slice of people who are in power and who are in the position to harm over and over and over and over again. It's a few people. Let's get rid of them.
Afuera.
I just want to dance in my flip flops, man.
In the words
I
of
wanna
Back to
go
the
Melissa,
back to
round
the
it.
jazz.
That's
shoes
your
days.
agenda.
I just
No, but
Back to the jazz shoe days.
Yes, white jazz shoes. Let's do
Right.
it.
nah, man, we get rid of those people. I can dance in my flip flops, just kick my feet up.
It's a lot. I'm gonna go home. Have a lot of reflecting to do.
I want to thank you guys both for being here today. This was really cool, and I have a request. I'd like you guys to come back at some point in the future because I would like a status update to see what our progress is and how we're doing.
We're being graded?
No, not in terms of that. I mean it in the sense of like, because if this is the most important thing that's going on in our scene, then we have to be able to at least monitor it to make sure it's getting better. No? I mean, I would assume that would be the most logical thing. If we have a conversation now and I go, oh, great talk, and we leave here, and then we don't ever do this again, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
Right? If the goal is to actually improve, then I think we should have some time and discuss it. And then we actually have to. There's so much we didn't cover in your individual career.
Yeah, who the heck are we anyway?
Yeah, we have to talk
Why
about
are we
that.
sitting here?
All right, we kind of got bummed rushed. I was trying to go chronologically to make sure it made as much sense as possible, but we got
time for all of that.
And then we skipped 20 years.
Yeah.
But I have a question for both of you.
Okay.
If you want to see progress, what is one commitment that you can make to make progress?
Us?
Yes.
It's funny because before all this stuff was happening, Jeff and I, we sat down and we kind of reevaluated and we talked about what we wanted to do. And there are things that we do that we don't talk about.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
very different and unique to our events. So, like, one thing that we talked about this week that people don't know about, for New York Congress, we do hire private security staff. The majority of our staff, well, the head of our staff, he's a retired NYPD sergeant, and the staff that's on site is either currently on the NYPD or they're all retired. And then we also have an active uniformed officer in the New York Congress in the building all weekend long. And that in the event something does happen, we have someone immediately available to us. We can report something in the event something does happen. because that's one thing that we realized at event at that scale. And thank God, last year we didn't have any real issues. But the year prior, when Jeffrey and I worked it, there were multiple issues that we definitely had to deal with. In terms of people being drunk, we had one female claim that she had a restraining order for a party, and we needed to address that, obviously, because that was really, really important. And I think we also had to remove someone else from the event. We haven't announced this yet, but one thing that we talk about is, in our scene, because of the fact that it's male dominated, the opportunities that we're trying to give to different artists is one thing, but one of the other issues is our actual musical acts that we have at the vet. I don't know, Jeff. Should we say this now? I feel like it'd be a great time to do it.
We hired Chachi to
Headline
our salsa event. Yes. I don't think the event has ever had a female artist headline. So, I do think, my biggest gripe with the Congresses, I like doing it. I love the challenge of it, right? But it's more for a legacy than for anything financial. That's the truth. It really makes no sense to do it. We're hoping that maybe one day we get a sponsor and things change, but at the end of the day, like all we do is just hope we can break even and move on, and that's what we want to do, right? And we want to then put our touch on it and create something that hopefully we could leave a lasting legacy. That's the point, right? If it's not safe, there's no way we're going to create a lasting legacy. So it has to start there. I think that, the biggest challenge for me, right, is not so much not taking action because we need somebody to pay the bills. It's not worth it. At the end of the day, if someone is doing, like the gentleman with the situation last year, when that came up and there was accusations of like spiking the drink, we made the decision immediately, like, no matter what, we're not going to work with, like, that person cannot come. We're not going to deal with it. Whether we know at the time, whether we know it's true or not, we're not going to do it. So I don't think we have an issue doing that. I think what worries me is the split. We have such a split right now, and everything is like haywire. Like, I can talk to people in my studio, and some of the females will be like, hey, I stand with the victims. And then I have other females that'll be like, well, like, these situations have to be better. So it shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is. These are the cards we're dealt. So for me, my whole thing is awareness. How do we bring awareness to what's going on, what the different, like, that other side, that other point of view, and just a code of conduct is great, right? But we have that technically, right? We have laws that say you can't sexually assault anyone, and it's still being violated. So my thing is, I always feel like, how do you bring awareness to whatever's going on? Like, when my friends talk to me like, oh, my kid is doing this, like, he's doing this, he's acting up, and it's like, dude, bring awareness to your kid. It's not enough to just be like, yo, you're gonna be punished for this. No, have a conversation about it. Like, they're teenagers, they're going through things, they're changing. So I'm a big awareness person. I feel that there is not enough awareness. I feel that some people that we would consider predators are doing these things, and I feel that some of them are consciously doing evil acts, and I feel that some of them don't even realize what the hell is going on, because you have conversations with them and they're literally oblivious, right? We had a situation, I hate to do this, but we had a situation last week where a public service announcement was put out, and then there was a huge mistake made 10 minutes later. And it's like, that is like right there is a lack of awareness. Maybe it was an honest mistake and it wasn't meant for anything. It wasn't meant to be harmful. I get that, but making that mistake at that time, like you're clearly not aware of what's going on. Like there's so much more at stake for you to be that risky. And I just feel like there's a huge lack of awareness, of social awareness in our scene. And I feel like if we want to do anything, we need to have these conversations, right? And I think that that's one of the reasons why we started doing this anyway. Like there's just a lot to talk about. So that's how I think I can help. I don't know if that's enough.
So a little mix of firing some people and some education.
Excuse me?
A mix of firing some
Yeah,
problematic people and educating the public.
I think educating the public, I think like there's so much knowledge that was dropped here today, right? And even me that has worked in with and dealt with some of these situations before. Your approach today was not what I was expecting. Both of you. You said a lot of things today, right? So for me, like I'm kind of just sitting back and taking it in, right? And usually I don't really rewatch these things, but I need to rewatch this. And I need to pay attention, and I have to learn more, and I have to educate myself. But like this is important for other people to hear, to listen, to pay attention to, and to get better. Because at the end of the day, you know, how else, like, is firing people the answer, the only answer? I don't think so.
Yeah, but no one's saying it's the only answer.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So for me, it's like, let's continue to talk about it. Let's get
The
better.
easy
let's
part is
learn.
firing the people.
The
I think
easy
is
part
what
is
Jeff
firing
is saying.
people.
That's
Okay.
not difficult for us. Like
I saw somebody say that, like, oh, I heard promoters are not gonna fire people because they need them to make their things. Let's boycott. And it's like, I mean, if you can't make that decision, like you shouldn't be running an event to begin
Then they
with.
deserve the boycott.
Like
Right.
you deserve it.
Yeah.
So that's the easy part.
Right.
The
You know-
hard part is me coming to my studio and me having to have a conversation with a student that I have to have this week, because what I perceive to be like an awkward,
a socially awkward character is being perceived as someone who's like, you know, creepy.
right? So
You know,
I look at it like, but it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
They feel a different way about it. So now I got to have that conversation, right? And that's, you know, that's the tough part.
Yes, that's a long-term project. And I think education efforts also have to be focused toward men, because we do a lot of educating for women. Oh, watch your drink. Watch what you wear. Watch where you walk.
But if you notice, when I mentioned what I mentioned to Edwin, I really didn't mention the females. I mentioned the men, like the men in our studio, the guys in our studio, the guys that are going out, that they're hanging out, that they're, you know, looking to do their thing. Like, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but that comes from us, right? Because at the end of the day, they dance for us. We're responsible for how they perceive those interactions.
and based on everyone else, they're a reflection on what they learned from us and how we behave.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if we act like assholes and then they act like assholes because they see us acting like assholes, then it's just that vicious cycle that we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's absolutely no, you know, but what I think that we've worked really hard on is being able to tell people, yo, man, go have a good time, go do what you got to do. But hey, man, listen, you got to make sure, you know, respect yourself first so you can respect everybody else. And I think that is the, you know, the bigger driving point. And another thing that Jeff talked about today was like, you know, we focus a lot on our dancing in these events, and we don't do any real professional development on the topic. And that was something he touched on this week too, that he didn't even tell me he was going to say, but it was something that was mentioned in our meeting in our studio. And I think that's also something that, like, yes, I think that's something that's almost gonna have to become like a mandatory component in what we do.
I had one of my. I had one time we were supposed to go to a social, and like I set it up, and then it's like, oh, who could do this show? Everybody. All right, let's go. We're gonna do this social, and then it was like, oh, like this person forgot they couldn't do it. This person forgot they couldn't do it, and I looked, and I was like, okay, do we not feel comfortable performing here? Is that what it is? And they didn't answer. Then I had to have a meeting and be like, listen, it's okay if you don't feel comfortable. I can't guess though.
And
Right?
that's
You have to set that boundary with me. Like, hey, I don't feel comfortable going there. And then we won't do it. Like, it's that simple. It's not like, whether we perform at a social or congress or whatever. Somebody brought up another congress. We were scheduled to go, and they said, "Oh, I don't know if I feel comfortable." So all you have to do is tell me that you don't feel comfortable, and we won't do it. It's not that big of a deal. Look, if they take me out of the lineup, they take me out. Like, I really don't care. Like, that's not my. I don't like pulling back on commitments. That I don't like doing, but sometimes you gotta pull back on a commitment. It's just part of the game.
Well, have you made that clear to your team that you're okay pulling out if they don't feel comfortable?
I have made that clear to them. But it took this for me to do it.
Right.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
and it's
I didn't
interesting.
think about it. I'll be honest. I was just like, and when that happened with that social a couple months ago, I sat them down and I said, guys, you understand that I send and I ask you guys. So like people call me every day and they go, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? I get it like constantly. And what I do is I'll send it to the captain and I'll say, do you guys want to do this? And if they say no, it's a no. Like, it's not like when we danced. When we danced on a semi-pro team, we didn't have a choice. We did whatever came our way. That's just the way it works, right? I don't do that because I don't feel that that's the way to go about it. They get to do what they want, right? Now, most of the times they say yes because they want to perform. I mean, that's why you rehearse. You rehearse because you want to perform. And when they do a social, they can, we've had socials where we bring 40, 50 students. They feel a certain way about it, right? But if they don't feel comfortable, that's fine. That's okay. I have no issue with it. But they have to tell me. So I had this conversation. We had a meeting on Thursday. I haven't been here since I had the baby. But I came in and I told them, and they'll tell you, I said, look, we need to decide what's okay and what's not. Which socials are we okay with doing? Which socials we're not.
And then there's nuance to it too, right? Because it's like, what I also realized in that meeting was some people don't feel comfortable saying that they don't feel comfortable
Exactly,
going.
that's what I was about
So,
to say.
and I was like, yo, hold on one second. If maybe you might not feel comfortable telling Jeff, then tell me. Maybe you might not feel comfortable telling me, then tell your captain, have a meetings amongst yourselves, make a decision, and then let us know.
Or tell Julie, or tell Bree, or
tell
McDalia.
Bree,
They're not here, but they were on the Zoom.
Yeah. So, and that was nuanced for us because it was like, as we're sitting there, I can feel the cringe. And it's like, all right, wait a minute. Hold on one second. Maybe we aren't the people that you want to feel comfortable with. So, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to provide you different reference points where you guys can let people know. And then we can make the decision to say no is easy. Like, I think people really feel like, I think people misunderstand, at least for us, like there's nothing that we have to do. We're not obligated or bound by anything with the exception of the commitment that we make, which is number one to ourselves, which is the first and foremost. My loyalty is to him and his loyalty is to me and to Edwin as well, right? At the end of the day, it's important that we have Edwin at our event. It's important that I come out and I say something. It's not a secret. And it's not because he's not good or because it's a favoritism or it's nepotism. It's because, in my opinion, in our scene, I believe that if anyone deserves to get the push, it's him. So you know what? If that means I have to go out there and trot myself out there with a microphone and say something nice about the both, and this includes you too, because you're part of us.
I appreciate very much what you said about me.
But it's because it's the truth, though. There was nothing in there that was a lie.
Right, but I appreciate that you highlighted my work with not just Chisme.
Of course, 100%, because I think when it comes to what's going on, I think that's more important than the show is incredible. I know the show's incredible. I've seen it a lot. We've talked about it a lot. I know what the crowd is about to get, and they're going to get their money's worth. But I also think that it's important for me as someone who is driving whatever movement we're in forward to be able to say, hey, listen, this is my closing act, and this is what I think is the best. This is my opinion. Whether you like it or not, you are going to respect what's about to happen. It may not be your cup of tea. It might not even be the music you like. But by the time you're done, you're going to go, yo, that shit was incredible. And it's very important for me that people get that feeling at the end of my show block. I think it's important. Jeff and I talk about that. Yo, everybody needs to remember the end. Right? Because again, some people may not remember the beginning. Some people might be tired by the middle. But the ending is very important. And what I want to push at my event was important to me. And if I can't push my friend, then what am I doing? Right? At the end of the day, it's important to us. And for us to do that is not difficult. That's where my loyalty lies. It's here. Right? Then to my studio, to the people that come here, we have to respect them and we have to treat them. We are not about creating dancers. We're about creating experiences here. Because the dancing is finite, but the experience is forever. We had a Zoom meeting today, and honestly, I was surprised that so many of our former people wanted to be a part. It was kind of like, damn, that's pretty cool. Because you know what?
We haven't been here 6 years.
We haven't been here in a long time. But you know what? The fact that they at least wanted to come and participate, they didn't have to say anything. But that presence for us and that sense of family and that trust in us is important to me. All right. I had a female in my studio, and I've never told Jeff this. She called me once. She was having an issue with someone, and I said, yo, what do we got to do to help you? And we did that because for us, this is so much bigger than whatever we're learning, right? Because at the end of the day, this is very finite. Now, dancing is the most consistent thing I've done in my lifetime. This is it. And I'm very, very much appreciative of what this scene does and who we are. But that being said, there's so many issues that we do have because, you know, you used the word, you said insidious. And you know what? It's so unfortunate that we have to describe what we do as that. But you know what? This is the time that we have to have, like I said at the beginning, we got to have some difficult conversations. And if we aren't going to have them and we're not going to have the humility to sit here and say, hey, this is what we don't know. And we're trying to figure it out. And we're trying to navigate it as just as everybody else. But more importantly, we want to be part of the solution going forward. And I think that's really, really important for us. Now, are we perfect? We're close. No, we're not close.
You and Edwin are.
And it was going
Edwin,
well.
No, I'm just joking. That's a joke. No, we're not perfect. We're not perfect. But I like to think that we've been proponents of something positive while we've been doing this. And I like to think that the moment we can't do that anymore, I'm pretty sure Jeff and I will be more than willing to go and do something else. We'll go play in a basketball league.
What about bowling?
Bowling.
No, I'm bowling. No, we don't want to go bowling. That's
where the predators are.
Yeah.
Well, that's where they're going.
Yeah, go abuse the ball.
Guys, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Did you guys have fun?
I mean,
That's not how I would describe it.
Right.
Okay.
Did you have fun talking about this?
You know what? I'm glad that we're talking about it. Maybe it's not fun.
That's a different
But
emotion.
You know what? I feel as though I think and I say this with respect to everyone that we've had on before this, I think this might be the most important episode that we've done so far. And I think for me,
besides this talking about how bad Edwin was.
Yes, Edwin being the worst beginner ever.
Besides that,
was a special episode.
That's important. Everybody needs to know that.
Edwin has a fan base that watched that episode carefully.
Okay. Don't worry. Tell that fan base.
I would say that was pretty influential.
Why don't you tell that fan base that I have videos to prove it? How about that for your little fan club? Edwin Tolentino fan club. Why don't you do that? Huh?
I can't wait.
Now we don't say nothing, right?
You never said I wasn't bad.
All right? I got videos.
Worst ever.
I got the talent show. I have it.
Isabel. Edwin was a very bad beginner.
I have it.
We're all bad beginners.
No. We are
not like him.
And what is a bad beginner? What does that even mean?
Edwin was horrible. He was awful.
I get it.
He's probably the best dancer. Look.
Like,
hold on. Let me give
Don't
some
even
context.
give that context.
He was
bad.
He's probably the best. He's easily my favorite dancer in the world. He's probably top 5 best dancer in the world. But in the beginning, we would have never
That
guessed.
shit was crazy.
If you would have said to me, "Hey,
good.
what's the over under on Edwin becoming the best dancer in the world?" I would have said to you, "I'm
No
a
shit.
I know I was bad. I know.
but
So
you
you're
don't.
making
But
it
look at it.
clear.
You're
you were
inspiring.
horrible.
You're
You
an
were horrible.
inspiration. No. You're an
Inspirationally
inspiration.
bad.
Yeah, but look at dude. It's not about where you
Perseverance.
start. It's about where you finish, right? And
Okay.
you could have been horrible all those years ago, but now
No,
look who's laughing.
There was a time. I'm
Jeffrey
gonna
gets
tell
so
this
mad.
like 30-second story, and then we're done. Watch. There was a time in SR that Edwin was checked out. Like he was so. I had left, and then when I came back, when I stopped dancing, and when I came back, Edwin was completely 100% checked out, and he was just doing everything like half-assed. He looked like miserable. And one day I'm like, we're talking, and I I'll never forget this. They like, one of the girls goes, "Yo, everybody keeps talking about how good Edwin is, but Edwin is like I feel like he's just all right." And I was like, "Stop, he's
No,
good."
she said that. She said I was mediocre.
Mediocre, yes.
I remember.
So I go. So I go.
It's like he's just
So,
mediocre. And I went,
I'm gonna be honest. It pissed me off, like to no avail. So I'm
Core
like,
memory.
stop. I'm like, Edwin is nasty, and they're like, yo, but I don't get it. I go, he's faster than all of us. He moves better than everybody. He's the cleanest. He's nasty, and they're like, no, like, I don't know. I don't see it. So they're talking, and it got me furious. So I said, all right. So that night we went out. I forgot where we went.
Who said this?
I forgot where we went.
I
It's
know
all right.
where
That's
we
not
went.
important.
Leave
We
it.
went out.
Leave it.
We went out. And we're
Said
in
enough
his
today.
car. This is where you had the Civic. You still had the car. And
I remember.
I go, oh, we were at rehearsal today. And then he goes, yeah. And I go, yeah.
I didn't go.
I was
there.
like, yo, these people were all talking about how mediocre you were. And he goes, oh, yeah? And I go, yeah. Like, I was like, maybe he don't have it anymore. That's what I told him. I said, I defended him and I was pissed, but I was like, maybe you don't have it anymore. And he's like, he just shut up. He didn't say a word the rest of the night. I knew it. Yo, he came back the next day in rehearsal and he just lit that shit. Like, he did something, like, and he lit it up and he's just there dancing. And then, like, he walked off and went to the bathroom. And I, like, walked behind him and then I turned around. I was like, I don't ever want to hear shit from any one of you ever again.
But everybody's face, they were like, What's going
and I was
on?
like, yo, I don't want to hear anybody ever say anything about him ever again. And they were like, yo, my bad. They all were
Edwin's
like,
a
my bad. So I don't want to hear
revenge
that shit ever again.
I think that's his better angry.
A revenge dancer.
It's funny because in New
Yeah.
York, he came up to me and goes, hey, man, thanks, man, for what you said. And I was like, oh, like, dude, come on, you kidding me? He goes,
No, in New York, I told him, I said, yo, you're closing. And I said, you can handle that? He was like, what?
So he
Yeah,
says,
I
he
said,
says
I
to me,
will
he
see.
goes,
Little
I really
bitch.
appreciate what you said. And I go, oh, come on, bro. Like,
Subtle emotional
I'll do that 10 days.
manipulation. That's
I'll do that every day for the week for you if you needed me. Like, whatever. He goes, nah, man, but she needed that. You got her, like, really riled up. She danced really good. And I didn't think that I was going to have that much of
we
an
have
effect,
weird
honestly.
motivation tactics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. The last thing I thought was I was going to motivate you. Like, that'd be the last thing on my mind that I needed to motivate.
Nah, y'all killed
Because
that
that was
shit.
definitely not my
Y'all
intention.
killed
My
it.
intention was just to go out there and say something nice and kind of get the crowd riled up.
That was
for you
good.
guys.
That was good.
You guys crushed that night.
You crushed it at Tri-State too, but I like the New York show better.
Yeah. I felt like there was much more passion in the New York show.
It was.
We were all hanging on the edge of our seat in New York, like,
Well, it
Alright.
came from a real place, just for the record. I appreciate what you all said. And definitely that's the way he operates. Like, if you
Yeah.
challenge him, he steps up to it.
Hell
Yeah.
But for me, I had raw feelings because we made that piece to honor my dad, who committed suicide when I was 17. And it's taken me many years to process that grief.
Mhm.
But I was with Jessica backstage right when you were talking. And I didn't expect that you were going to take some time before bringing us out. So I was sort of thrown off
Oh man,
and I
I'm
had
sorry.
no, it's please no. But it gave me a moment to be with Jessica, who is a dear friend, and she held my hand. She asked me how I was doing, and I said I wasn't sure if I was going to able to produce the emotion that's required for the gravity of the event
Yeah.
with the presentation. And she said, "Well, then you're going to have to go out there and feel it for real." And I started crying in events. Yeah, but it was genuine. It was authentic. So I appreciate the opportunity to have real feelings like that in what supposedly is my performing job.
You got a standing ovation?
Yeah, but it's more than that. The standing
know,
ovation
but-
it goes.
Yeah, but it's one thing.
It was the emotional response. It was an
Yeah.
emotional response
It's
that day.
it's different, like from my point of view, my perspective, because as I'm watching the show, I see the faces, so I'm like there and I'm going, it's a good show.
This one feels right.
Because you see people like, and you see people start tearing, and then like even the men are like little, like just the mouths just, and you guys are just moving gracefully, and then I'm just there like, yeah, it's a good show. It's the best.
All right.
Guys, thank you very much. Why don't you give your social media handles individually, your individual one first, so people can follow you.
Ahtoy Juliana, no underscore.
No underscore, guys.
At Isabel Freiberger, also no underscore.
Well, that's our joke. And then obviously the you're not just Chisme.
Not just Chisme.
Is there an underscore?
Nope.
No underscore and not just Chisme. Jeff?
So Huracan.
All right, wait. This is why.
Okay.
Edwin?
Edwin __
Two underscores.
Tolentino.
Why?
But you know, you guys make fun of me, but it was taken. I would do Edwin Tolentino straight through.
Where are these
probably
other
is this
Edwin
guy.
Tolentino?
You know,
There's a lot of them out
He's
there.
probably from Iowa and has no followers.
That's probably you made 2 pages by mistake.
By mistake.
That's probably you.
pages?
Or all the
Yeah,
people
by
who tried to
mistake.
force
By
you
mistake.
on
I'll be
social
honest.
media.
If it were anyone else, maybe. But Edwin has been very anti social media for the majority of our lives. That I know he wouldn't have made that mistake. It would be physically impossible for him to have created 2 pages. DJ Boy, see guys again. Tri-State Dance Fest is coming up in July 2nd to the 6th. Obviously, the New York Congress, Labor Day weekend. We're thank you very much for tuning in. We're gonna be adding some resources and references for any victims of sexual assault at the end of this video. So by all means, we're also going to be adding the Just Chisme social page by itself as well. So guys.